Welcome to the future. Okay, wait. Actually, in which year are we? Look at those guys. I can't believe they messed it up again. So let's try it again. Welcome to 2020. It's not so bad after all. Is it perfect? Probably not. But it's definitely a big bang that will create a whole new universe of technologies and will change the world of industry like forever. But you know what? Future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Are you prepared for our journey to the future 4.0? If your answer is yes, give us the green light to take off. But please stop touching the screen. Just type your answer in the comment below. During the whole conference, you will have the opportunity to share with us your thoughts and questions. But if you want to tell somebody that you like him, please get a room. Use a private chat to communicate or make businesses with other participants of the conference. Future 4.0 is a place where we are successfully connecting corporate and startups galaxy in the universe of Industry 4.0. It's our great pleasure to welcome Future 4.0 Corpo partners who are ready to meet you, startups, and create explosions of innovation. So, here they come. TSH, Esotec, Gorenje, Iskra, Iskratek, Kolektor. Future 4.0 is brought to you by Sasha Incubator and a strong net of our partners who help us spread the voice about the conference and find the brightest startup stars. So let's meet future partners.
Dear all, we are sending you regards from Croatia. We are Team Enter Koprivnica, business support organization whose role is to create conditions for easier growth and development of newly established companies in the city of Koprivnica. All that through free education, networking, and providing a motivating space with state-of-the-art equipment. Wish you all quality time spent at the conference and a lot of networking. Bye!
Albania Sustainable Development Organization is a partner of all young entrepreneurs in the path of growth. We have created innovation tech corners in public libraries so that new and vital startups can use these spaces to level up. Come and check Bibliotech and join us in our work towards an innovative society.
In Startup Slovenia, we really support any initiative that makes our ecosystem more vivid and more actionable. That's why we are really happy that Future 4.0 is taking place for a specific vertical in our ecosystem. We wish you all the best and wish you a successful event. And you guys keep on rocking it.
Dear conference participants, we're PrimePoint Partners, a regional management consulting platform providing corporate advisory and regional business acceleration programs that create linkages between SMEs and corporations. My name is Biljana. Over here we have part of our team, all of us at different locations, Zoran, Maya, Velika, and Ivana. We wish you a fruitful conference with lots of successful partnerships. Warm greetings from Macedonia.
Hi from Superhub. This year we proudly bring some of our most innovative startups to Future 4.0. Future for us has been one of our favorite, if not the favorite event of the past year. And we're super excited to see what meetings they have arranged for us. And of course, we can't wait to see all the amazing content they have in store for us. So I guess, see you all in the future.
Dear future audience, the third conference, Future 4.0, is ahead of us. During this period, Sasha Incubator became a platform for connecting industrial corporations and startups. Why us? We are settled in the industrial region. We have managed to invite more than 100 startups from 11 countries, and they are open to work with big companies. We strongly believe that cooperation among startups and corporations is a key to success and growth for both sides. This year, the conference is very special, not only because it is online. Future 4.0 has received a Golden Award for Innovation from our Regional Chamber of Commerce, which is a huge recognition for us. It proves that also small, innovative teams can make a change. Thank you all for being part of it. Without you, corporate partners, startups, supporters, and of course my team, this conference would not be possible. Among two partners, which are with us from the beginning, are Municipality of Velenje and Slovene Enterprise Fund. I welcome Mayor of Municipality of Velenje, Mr. Petar Darmol, and Director of Slovene Enterprise Fund, Ms. Maja Tomanic-Vidovic. The floor is yours.
Welcome to Velenje. Welcome to the future. We are proud to host the third international conference Future 4.0 here in Municipality of Velenje. Velenje is the sixth biggest city in Slovenia, and despite the fact that we are known as industrial city, with a coal mining tradition, our greatest treasure is hidden in the values of the people, who are innovative, business-oriented, open and honest. For us, Velenje is definitely the most beautiful city, but the beauty is also certificated with the awards for the most hospitable city in Slovenia and for the best natural beach in our country. In our valley, there are big innovative companies like coal mine company Velenje, Gorenje Hisense Group, Esotech, Group BSH, Bosch, and many others open to work with startups. I am very proud that they are all supporters and corporate partners of the third Future 4.0 conference. Establishing business incubator of Sasha region 5 years ago was one of the best decisions we are made. Since the incubator has created more than 60 startups and almost 100 new jobs. Their income has grown for 30% from last year. During this period, incubator has cooperated with more than 250 companies. This year, Sasha Incubator has received a Golden Award by the Regional Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the conference Future 4.0. Nowadays, Velenje is facing the transition from the coal mine towards smart and high-tech region. Reduction of coal mine is forcing us to think outside the box, to rebuild our education, cultural, social and business system and processes. We are counting on a success of innovation, startups and corporations with well-established companies. We will continue to support startup communities. Therefore, we are planning to build a specialized industrial incubator in the near future. In the third business conference, Future 4.0, I wish you all pleasant work with a lot of new ideas and new connections among corporations and startups. I deeply hope next year we will meet you all in our beautiful Velenia. Don't wait for the future to happen. Create it.
Slovene Enterprise Fund is a part of the Future 4.0 conference for the third year in a row, and also as a part of our common efforts to promote the collaboration between startups and corporations. Slovene corporations are making first step into this uncharted territory of startups terrain. At the Slovene Enterprise Fund, we have a unique access to innovative projects and teams through our startup grant, seed and venture capital programs. Over the years, together with partners, institutions, mentors and private companies, the Slovene Enterprise Fund has built up one of the most comprehensive early-stage support environment in this part of Europe. But so far, the corporations have taken only a smaller part in this, or let's say this part could be larger. When we compare, for example, foreign ecosystems, we see in some cases more involvement by corporations collaborating with public entities in investment funds or individually investing in innovative young companies. In particular, for example, the German companies are investing heavily in startups together with public sector and with European fundings. We are certain that conference like Future 4.0 is a step in the right direction to gain traction and to present the possibilities of cooperation. We are also interested in knowledge through our substantive support, part of which is aimed at corporations like Corpo Start program that encourage cooperation between corporations and SMEs, primary startups and scale-ups with the aim to creating successful collaborative stories. The enterprises in the program are making a concrete development step. They cooperate sustainably with the corporations, and at the same time, together with these corporations, we invest in these startups through so-called co-investment mechanism of the Slovene Enterprise Fund. Corporate involvement with innovative enterprises, on the other hand, is like adopting a child. You have to know who to adopt, why to adopt. You have to be prepared on this environment, working with an adoptee. You have to be prepared for the growth. At the same time, we can still talk about some fears about it, that we openly and systematically address and resolve in this corporate startup program. The ultimate goal is to create more value together than young, innovative enterprises can do by their own, for the benefit of corporations, young enterprises, and the target market at whole. Slovene Enterprise Fund is promoting collaboration with more than just words. We match an investment by corporations into startup with public funding under our co-investment tender. But still, we need more private investors to help grow our companies and make best investment decision, while our public funding side reduces inherent risk. We have opened tenders and fundings for seed and venture financing for the next 3 years. We can talk about 10 million euro for seed investing and 16 million euro in the frame of Central European Fund of Funds. There is also new recovery and resilience facility under the European Commission, where new programs are taking place. And SAFE has successfully collaborated with various private investors already now, from business angels to VC and seed capital funds. We co-invested with, for example, Credo Ventures, 11 Ventures, Phil Rouge Capital, STH Management, Collector Ventures, Silicon Gardens, and many others. But we still need private investors, and above all, we need good innovative projects. Of course, this year we can not avoid current situation in the connection with COVID-19 pandemic. SAFE has, together with Ministry of Economic Development, launched a massive effort to help the economy and to our SMEs during the pandemic of these months. This year, we have created COVID loans for tourism and hospitality industry. We created COVID microloans, and we still have vouchers for protective equipment. We are also taking part in so-called Resilience and Recovery Program under the European Commission to address the consequences of the pandemic in the future and to launch a new seed capital and venture capital funds together with the private investors. Private funding is of course needed to complete the public investment, and as shown by the past programs, such collaboration has been lucrative and beneficial for all involved. Corporations and companies like Gorenje and Collector have collaborated with us in our VC program from 2010, and the program has been successful in almost every aspect. And we are very proud of all success stories of our young innovative companies, which are using the latest technologies to make great moves on fields like vacuum development, control system for complex machines, nuclear accelerator, optical and radio telescopes, fusion reactors, cancer treatment system, medical equipment, and many more. All new business models are based on digitalization, which is and which definitely will be an indecible factor for the future success. And all these advanced technologies are the most important for recovery after the pandemic shock too. So, we are facing a massive disruption in the market. Especially young innovative companies have to use this uncertainty and have to find the market niche for their company, for their technology. And to achieve this development model, technological shifts are crucial. But all these companies and young teams, besides technological shifts, need the right conditions for these challenges, right environment, which encourage creativity, innovations, which rewards differences and self-initiatives. There is still more to be done, and together with the corporates, we can do this together. We will continue to strive our efforts to help the entrepreneurs in Slovenia and to do what we can to improve the Slovene business environment in the future too.
Big thanks to all supporters of Future 4.0 conference. Now let's start with our very first talk. She is a successful business executive and entrepreneur that currently works as US ambassador in Slovenia. At the beginning of her mandate, she made clear that her goal would be to advocate for more trade ties between US and Slovenia, and that it applies to both small startups as well as well-established businesses. How successful was she in her efforts, and how would she like to encourage cooperation between Slovenia and US even more? Please very warm welcome to the US Ambassador to Slovenia, Ms. Linda Blanchard.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of the Future 4.0 conference, even if it has to be virtually. It's an honor to join speakers from American institutions such as Harvard and MIT, and to hear from our friends at top-notch Slovenian firms. I'm with you today to discuss a topic close to my heart and high on my list of priorities for our work in Slovenia: the thriving business relationships between American and Slovenian companies, and our commitment to making those relationships stronger. One of the most effective ways to do this is by bringing together corporations and startups to promote innovation and growth. As you all know, the United States enjoys a robust business presence in Slovenia. From the software and the hardware in the computers and phones we use, thanks to Apple, Microsoft, IBM, and others, to our food and drink, take Mars and Brown-Forman for instance, and domestic consumer products like Colgate-Palmolive, from service providers such as the consulting firms we hire to give us expert advice. Think A.T. Kearney or Boston Consulting Group. to the medicines we need, Lilly, Amgen, Pfizer, MSD, and others, to the cars we drive, be it a Ford, a Jeep, and now even maybe a Tesla. As ambassador, I'm proud of the many American products and services represented here, but our relationship is grounded in more than just the sale of American products and services. We thrive together and achieve more through productive and lucrative long-term business partnerships like Goodyear Sava. When I arrived in Slovenia, this was one of the first visits I made to familiarize myself with our leading business relationships. As some of you know, Goodyear acquired domestic tire manufacturer Sava in the late 90s, and recognizing the exciting business opportunities here, made Slovenia a regional production and distribution hub. Most recently, Goodyear has significantly invested more capital in Slovenia through a product development center in Kranj. American businesses have also enjoyed success by investing in strong Slovenian companies like Futana Lasers and ProPlus Multimedia in the past, and the Apollo Fund into NKBM and Abanka more recently. These have been mutually beneficial partnerships for both the U.S. and Slovenia, and we hope to see more in the future. On the other side of the Atlantic, Slovenian companies, particularly tech startups and SMEs, are active in the U.S. market. Information technology companies like Celtra and Zamanta Outbrain work in both countries, while Cozy Lab, which makes controls for systems used to treat cancer and in large-scale experimental physics, has a strong presence on the U.S. market. This has led to job creation and investment in research and development in both the U.S. and Slovenian markets. Startups like Visionet, making hardware for e-paper solutions, have recently opened a branch in the States, while in scientific fields, Slovenian SMEs have or are seeking partners to sell their innovative products in the U.S. as well. EKWB Komenda, a Slovenian premium manufacturer of liquid cooling systems for superdata centers, along with several other industries, have moved their international operations to Arizona because the majority of their business activity focuses on the United States. And most relevant to the pandemic that we continue to face, the Slovenian life sciences company Educell formed the Fight Against COVID Consortium in the spring to find solutions to the pandemic, which includes many American partners. In short, we have a thriving and growing history of working together in mutually beneficial ways. Americans know that the high-tech niche solutions offered by Slovenian companies are always leveraged to good effect on the large and diverse U.S. market. But none of us can be complacent, particularly not larger businesses. Now and in the future, large companies will have to innovate more to survive competition and disruptions in their fields to grow. This will increasingly mean collaboration with startups. Why? Because these small, nimble, and energetic additions to the market can provide innovative goods and services to corporations, but they can also benefit from the capital, workforce facilities, and networks that larger corporations can offer. Indeed, the United States has a long history of big corporations like Intel, Xerox, GE, IBM, AT&T, and Merck working with and often acquiring startups to promote innovation. In the United States, we're proud of our startup culture and our history, not to mention our future in innovative partnerships. We've learned over time that there are a number of ways that corporations can collaborate with startups, accelerators, incubators, corporate venture capital, and strategic partnerships, to name a few. In fact, large American corporations like Nike, Microsoft, American Express, and PepsiCo have used this model to create accelerators, investment funds, and other programs aimed at startups. For example, Pepsi's PepsiCo 10 is a digital incubator program that selects 10 startup techs in entertainment, mobile, retail, and sustainability. In addition to funding, the selected companies are matched with PepsiCo brands such as Gatorade or Frito-Lay for mentoring and pilot campaigns. The top 5 U.S. companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, have also made numerous acquisitions of startups. Indeed, many Google products started as service provided by companies that Google has since acquired. And it's not just tech. In healthcare, large pharmaceutical companies have been keen to access and often acquire both smaller companies and startups to gain new drugs or technologies for their portfolios. Startups are driving innovation in the pharmaceutical sector that accounts for more than 60% of all prescription drug approvals in the U.S. Universities account for a vibrant opportunity for better partnerships too. From Silicon Valley to the Heartland and beyond have all produced cutting-edge innovations in everything from IT to healthcare. And former industrial coal and steel regions like Pittsburgh have transformed into a tech hubs and centers for life science due to collaborations with top educational institutions like Carnegie Mellon University. In short, these kinds of collaborations between universities, corporations, and startups are a key characteristic for a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. In closing, I see my job here as very simple. In very clear terms, I want to bring people together from business and culture to education and technology. And each of you understand why that is so important. Because together, we can always be more creative, more dynamic, and more successful than we could ever be apart. So let's work to bring the different strengths of my country and of Slovenia together to create newer and better products and services that will make our people and our economies stronger. Thank you so much. Hvala lepa.
Now we move to our first keynote speaker, a man who is not just well known in Slovenia, but also worldwide, a man with the title Living Legend of Aviation, Mr. Ivo Boscarol. He is the founder, CEO, and co-owner of the Pipistrel Group companies with branches in Slovenia, Italy, Germany, and China. Ivo dedicates his life to making the aviation affordable and environment-friendly. For more than 15 years, Pipistrel has been the producer of world's most energy-efficient light aircraft and one of the pioneers of electric propulsion. He will tell us more about pioneering affordable and emission-free aviation. The stage is yours, Mr. Boscarol. Thank you very much.
Hello to everybody. I'm Ivo Boscarol. I'm one of the not a lot of persons in this crazy world who can say that hobby is business and business is hobby. I started more than 30 years ago like a glider pilot, but at that time in former Yugoslavia was not easy to become a pilot if he was not supposed to be a military pilot. So in early 80s, when these strange flying machines, what you see on the screen, appeared, and as we were flying in the dark in the evening, because we were totally illegal at the time, on the evening sky shape, we were very close to the bird Bat. And that's why local people here start to call me Bat. And when I started then to produce these strange machines, I said, okay, in former Yugoslavia, this is too small market for me. I need to export. And the closest country here was Italy. And in Italian, it's Pipistrello, or in Latinium, the bat is Pipistrellus. So I gave the name to my company in the way that in Western world, let's say, will understand it. And I started to produce these strange machines, and I become a first aircraft producer in complete Balkan area at the time, and gradually we started then a new era of aviation. This was so-called ultralight class aviation. In the beginning we called it alternative flight, but later we have changed the name. So I'm one of the founders of so-called ultralight or microlight aviation, and because of this, my achievements, I got almost all possible awards in aviation world, because I contributed to make the flight affordable to everybody. It was very easy to dismount this wing, to put it on the car, and to go simply flying without restricted system in aviation. I was also recently nominated Living Legend of Aviation, what is a big recognition for me. But yes, I also, because of my contribution, aviation now is much more affordable than it was in 70s or 80s. As I started the business from my hobby, I still today like that all my employees, which are now 200 plus, understand their job like a kind of hobby. So we run the companies in very, let's say, social oriented way. We like that our families enjoy with us, that our employees have time to go to their families in the afternoon. So we stop working at 3 p.m. and we leave our workers to have also their private life. Nowadays, of course, Pipistrel is bigger. We are international group. We have the companies, 2 companies in Slovenia, 1 company in China, 1 in Italy. So we are, let's say, running quite successful international business, all connected to aviation. Despite we are still family-owned companies, the major shareholders are me and my daughter. Of course, in this crazy world, challenging world, it's important that you not only survive, but you are growing, and you have a clear vision where you like to go in the future. That's why we have 4 very strong pillars in our vision, in our strategy. First, we like to be advanced. We like to be different. We must have an efficient production to earn enough to finance the future development. And we must sell this, because nowadays the market is very important, because it's very, very demanding. And the customers are kings more than ever. And all this, of course, contribute to a successful business, what is mandatory to earn and to close this circle. Pipistrel is not known also only in Slovenia. Pipistrel was nominated like the most innovative company in European Union time ago. We are having AAA creditworthiness since long time, and I can say that Pipistrel is one of the not a lot of companies who can say that in all past years, in all the history, they never had bad year. So constant growth every year was better than the previous one. Because of this, of course, we were awarded from different institutions. What we are proud of is that the highest reward in aviation history was, let's say, won by Pipistrel. We won all 3 NASA awards in the history for the best aircraft. The last, in 2011, we won $1.3 million US, what was higher reward than Nobel Prize. But today I would probably not be here with you if it would not be because of this slide. I always gave to my team the clear indication that the aircraft must fly also without the power of the engine, that the aircraft must burn less fuel than the others, that the aircraft must produce less noise than the others. And because of this, our aircraft are much more efficient than our competitors' aircraft. And this make the base also later, recently, to make the aircraft fully electric. To control all the process and to surprise our competitors, of course, we must have in-house as much as possible to be efficient, to be fast, and not to disclose too much what we are doing. So we have in-house everything from the first crazy idea to prototyping, ground testing, tests in the flights, certification, and also serial production. Serial production is important because from the production and from the sales, we earn the needed money for the next and future development, research, so to make our, let's say, production stable. These are the numbers of Pipistrel today. More than 2,200 aircraft are flying all over the world, different plus models, yes. We are producing 1 aircraft per day, and the aircraft are flying in 97 countries. Imagine that 1 aircraft was also in Antarctica. What you see now on the picture is our, let's say, top model, the most advanced trainer 2-seat aircraft in the world. This aircraft was designed and type certified as the first aircraft in general aviation class with the 3D components. It has all the capabilities to fly day and night, full autopilot, and if you see the numbers on the right side, you see how, let's say, low is the running cost per hour, including the depreciation, everything. We are below 60 euros. This is almost half of the classic, let's say, aircraft designed and produced in 60s and 80s, which are still on the market today. The 4-seat aircraft, the Pantera, is the first aircraft we designed in the aviation history in modules that the customer can select, or he will fly the aircraft which is powered by piston engine, which burn car fuel, not avgas, or electric, or hybrid. We are convinced that nowadays the characteristics of the aircraft are not the only values the pilots and the community are looking for, but people like to be also responsible to the atmosphere, to the pollution. They don't like to disturb the neighbors with the noise. So noise is more important than it was ever. And that's why we decided almost 20 years ago to go electric. Electric aviation has a lot of potential, has a lot of benefits, has a lot of improvements which can, let's say, help to the community to be more friendly. It's more friendly to the atmosphere, but of course it has a lot of challenges. Nowadays, everybody is talking about electric mobility and also electric aviation. But we are selling electric aircraft since 2007. So we are on the market 13 years. And if you see, there are not a lot of projects connected to electric aviation on the market in the world that we would be not involved. The first product we introduced, it was a Taurus Electro. Taurus Electro, it's an electric motor glider, but it has a specific that during the flight, the solar trailer accumulates the energy, and when you land, you transfer the energy to the aircraft and you go to fly again. This was 13 years ago, so big improvement, so big innovation that the Popular Science, the most reputable newspaper of the science, listed this innovation one of the 10 best in the year 2008 in the world. As we have seen that electric propulsion can work, we of course put all our energy and all the money we have and we don't have in development of the electric aircraft, electric propulsion. And the result of this was the first type certified two-seat aircraft ever in the world. You know, the difference between electric aircraft and type certified aircraft is enormous. First of all, you can build any kind of electric aircraft, but if you like to build it according to the standards to prove that this aircraft is safe as piston engine or jet engine aircraft, you must first have standards to compare the aircraft if it fit in the standards. But when we started the certification, there were no standards, nowhere in the world at all. So we started cooperation with the European Safety Agency, EASA, to set the standard first. And when the standards has been published, we faced a lot of, let's say, challenges, how to test the aircraft, how to build the aircraft to be according to the new standards, because nobody never did something similar before. And the result was enormous. The aircraft called Velis Electro, when it was type certified, proved that now electric aviation is reality. Until this moment, electric aviation was hobby programmed. But now electric aviation has a proof that can be commercially available, can be used for public transport, so same like jet engine or piston engine. And if you see the numbers here, and you compare these numbers with the previous one, you see that we can fly 1 hour with the cost of the energy less than €1. Of course, in this moment, electric aviation is not yet enough strong to fly over the Atlantic, but it can replace completely piston engine for training, because normal lesson lasts 45 minutes, and almost in silent, because if you don't see this aircraft in the air, you don't know that it's in the air. It's so quiet. So we are contributing to the community because we don't produce noise, but we still do the same mission as before. This aircraft is emission free, so no pollution behind this aircraft, and this is the biggest advantage. But yes, of course, we are proud that from Pipistrel is coming a new era. And if you see this slide, the first type certified piston engine was very far in 1927, and in 1952 was the first type certified jet engine aircraft. And between 1952 until 2010 was not any big milestone in aviation propulsion. And in 2020, when Pipistrel type certified first the engine and then the aircraft, sent a clear message to the aviation community that the emission-free and the noise-free aviation is a reality, and now the door is open to a new aviation era. Because of this, our achievements and development and all the, let's say, different approaches towards emission-free and noiseless aviation, years ago, also Uber approached us to be part of their Uber Elevate project to change the existing system in the megacities. In megacities, you know, we have today piston or let's say mobility, which heat the atmosphere, reduce the visibility, increase the CO2. It is very noisy. The energy must be imported from Arabic countries. It's pollution, and all this we can change if we put the third dimension to mobility, and the taxis are going in the air, electric powered, emission free and noiseless. Because of this, we are developing a very innovative concept, which will start flying, of course, in this decade, and will have a big contribution to the mobility in the cities. It is quite strange, you see. It has 8 vertical lifts, rotors, which help to take off and land vertically, but during the level flight, this machine behave like a normal aircraft, so the needed energy is much less than the competitors. That's why we can fly much longer distances. And on this same concept, to be on the market faster, because the rules for cargo transport will be announced earlier, what we estimate, we start developing also a flying truck or a flying van, which can transport 3 Euro pallets. It's about 400 kilos of cargo, more than 300 kilometers far. Vertical takeoff and landing, very quiet and completely autonomous. So this is the missing link between the airports and the hubs. But as our mission and our knowledge is how to design the aircraft emission-free and noiseless, we of course look into the future. And what you see on this slide is a study of miniliner for transport between the cities, which are not so far, but too close that you can fly with, for example, Airbus 320, and too far to go by car. And what is important of this concept is that these miniliners can take off also from a grass, short runways, and you can do all the formalities on small airports, and you can go direct in the big terminal. So you save time from the decision that you will go to fly over the ocean to the minute you enter into the big transocean aircraft. And this will be done emission-free and noiseless. Yes, this we see like a big challenge and like something what must be done. Because in this moment, the air transport is organized in not really smart way. We are forcing the passengers to go to the airports. This is wrong. The airports must come to the passenger. So we must design the vehicles, the aircraft, in a way that they can take off as short as possible and they can bring the passengers to the final destination as fast as possible. We are destroying today the best land for the airports. The airports slowly must not disappear but become smaller to save the agriculture land. And this is our mission. And the next mission is to keep the atmosphere as it is. On this slide, you see the Earth from the space. And this blue tiny belt around the Earth, it's our atmosphere. People can live months without the food. We can survive maybe weeks without the water, but only few minutes without the air. Aviation is maybe not the biggest polluter, but it is polluting this what we all need in every second. That's clean air. And it's a duty of everybody who can contribute to this to do it. And the Pipistrel mission is to contribute to clean atmosphere, and we will do it also in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I suggest we get more cozy now. How do you approach the innovation process in your company?
Innovation, innovativity, it's in DNA of Pipistrel, of course. If we would be doing something what is not ahead of our competitors, we would not be here today. So we must have a very clear long-term vision, and not thinking out of the box, of course, means that tomorrow we are dead. That's why I have a majority of our team, very young engineers from all over the world, not only engineers, but people from all let's say, sectors, from all fields, to give the correct contribute to the final product. You know, a flying machine like aircraft or VTOL, it's made from maybe 5 or 10,000 pieces, 90 or 100 different systems, and also different technologies. And maybe what I have in my head, that is the best solution, somebody can see in totally different way and prove me that I'm wrong. That's why I leave the complete, let's say, freedom to my team, not only to design, but only to make mistakes. Because without making mistakes, you will never reach the best result, you know. And if you don't enjoy in your job, in what you are doing, you will always not be. You will also not be innovative. And of course, you must be, let's say, satisfied in your working place. You must be satisfied about the results. You must have let's say, a challenge to change the world. You must have a lot of, let's say, bases combined in a way that you can do what the others cannot. You know, the money, it's quite low in this pyramid. You know, my engineers, I cannot pay them, of course, as they would be paid maybe if they go to NASA or to Honeywell somewhere in US. But nobody is leaving me. You know, I can count on the fingers of my two hands people who left me in 30 years. They are all with me. You know, why? Because they enjoy here. You know, they're doing what they like, and they know that tomorrow the world will be different because of their work.
How does it feel to be the first one, to be the pioneer? And what is the recipe for this?
It's not easy to answer this question, but first of all, we have a proverb in our company that first is only one and second can be the second, or even better, that first can be only one and everybody can be the second. After a certain time, nobody will ever know who was the second, but everybody will remember the first. So we have no alternative. Or we are the first, or we will disappear. That's how in this competitive world is, So we like to also not to be the first one, but we must survive, because in aviation it's nice to be a pioneer, but very hard to live from this, because the rules are not there. The base to sell is not there, because we are ahead of all this, So we must help also the regulators, we must help the community to grow with us, that then our products can be sold, can be purchased. Otherwise, developing something for hobby, we cannot afford, because we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough money. So being the first is fine. It's hard to live from this, but it's a must to be the first.
What would be your advice to SMEs in Slovenia? How to improve their innovation process, and what is your recipe that they can be the first one too?
They must not be afraid about the bigger ones and the best one, the better ones. We started as the last one on the market and the smallest one, but now the biggest are coming to ask us if we can cooperate. So everything is possible if you are convinced in this, if you believe in team, and if you believe in team will believe in you. So the team is the most important, and the team and the employees are the ones who are generator of success. The machines, the buildings, everything, this is a tool to achieve the success, but the generator of success are people. And if you invest in people, then you cannot be afraid of bigger ones, you cannot be afraid of what they are doing, the others who has 10 times, 100 times, 4,000 times more money than you, because you know that your team is it's capable to do better things for less money than the others. And all the small enterprises must work in this way, and must be convinced that no wall is thick enough that you cannot make a hole in it with your head. I would like to thank the organizers of Future 4.0 to this opportunity to share the vision of the emission-free and noiseless aviation. Such events help to understand that we all need the air mobility, but we must make it in a way that don't make more damages than contribute with profits.
The whole conference Future 4.0 is about connecting startups with corporations. But the question is, how to find a perfect match? Is there something like Tinder for startups and corporations? Okay, but wait, am I even ready for a relationship? What do I actually want? Is that one-night stand, open relationship, or maybe even marriage? Title for the next slot could easily be This is How They Do It. Let's meet Luka Deo from Iskra and Samo Kastelic from startup Smart Cargo and ask them how they met and where their relationship stands today. Luka and Samo, welcome to the future!
Hello from Startup. company Smart Cargo.
Okay, hello from Iskra.
Luca, as we know, Iskra is a globally recognized corporation providing intelligent industrial solutions. What was the challenge and why, instead of developing solution in-house, your decision to start a relationship with startup?
So Iskra is in process of digitalization and implementation of paperless environment. We know that cargo and logistics requires a lot of documentation and communication between involved parties. Our goal was that the process of cargo and logistics is digitalized and simplified. Our wish was an interactive system that will lead our users through a process, and that all documents are collected in one place. We also wished that cargo companies and our buyers will use this platform for communication. So for this project, we needed specific knowledge, and we found out that we don't have enough of knowledge in our house. So the smartest and the most effective way was to look around to see if there is something on the market. And the name Smart Cargo pops up. And that's how our relationship began.
Samo, Smart Cargo developed a platform that automates the entire logistic process, from document creation, transport and insurance selection, document distribution, and notification, to coordinating all the participants in the process. What problem actually inspired you, and why decision to start collaboration with Iskra?
In Smart Cargo team, we have a lot of experiences in operational and management roles from different industries like supply chain, logistics, software development, retail, distribution, consulting, and so on. And at the time, each of us faced more or less same problems. A lot of operational work, seamless communication, pointless reporting, and so on. So Smart Cargo emerged from the idea to automate supply chain process and connect all involved parties in one neutral and safe ecosystem. Therefore, the goal was to create an entire logistic process, modern, digitalized, and automated, for less bureaucracy, less manual work, and for more efficiency. Smart Cargo enables savings in time and money on many levels, but our main focus is on constant development. We think that going from hard working to smart working result in added value of people and also their health, either through lower stress level for better performance and engagement of the employees, or in time of pandemic crisis, keeping safety distance by preventing physical document exchange for those on the field. Our biggest challenge is that we are making a solution that does not exist yet for the pain on the market that not many are aware of. So there are some connected operational challenges that we need to solve at the beginning in order to steer strategy in the right way. For instance, choosing the right technology, finding right development partners, keeping up with the global development and changes, and finding partners like Iskra.
So the next question is for both of you. When the flirting between Iskra and Smart Cargo began, you probably wrote down pros and cons. And Luca, what was the biggest benefit that you saw in Smart Cargo?
With startup, we gain a partner with a lot of knowledge and experience in logistics. In the same time, they needed a company like Iskra to fully develop their product. Our biggest gain was that we were part of development and we can influence in user experience of this platform.
What about Smart Cargo? What did you write on your list? What did you gain in this relationship?
With Iskra giving us opportunity, we gained a proof of concept, and we were able to fine-tune the product to its full capacity. Furthermore, Iskra's reputation and market position allow us to test and see how the product works on the enterprise level, and the results were above our expectation.
Samo, with or without Iskra? Would Smart Cargo be the same today?
Well, every single IT solution needs its first customers to test the concept. We believe that the most important part of any startup company is to get on the market as soon as possible, because only market can shape the product so it can be used to its full potential. And if this can be done on the corpo level, that escalates even faster. And that's exactly what happened with Smart Cargo.
A lot of corporations have second thoughts about working with startups because it's a stereotype that they can be unreliable. Today they are alive and maybe tomorrow they are gone. So, Luca, why Smart Cargo and why startups?
Why Smart Cargo? Smart Cargo has a unique solution that we didn't find anywhere on the market. And also in Iskra, we like to support startup companies. Why startup? Because it's a lot of new, fresh energy. It's a lot of out-of-the-box new ideas. And that's why we like to do business with them.
Samo, can you please tell us, how does this collaboration really look like in practice?
First, we start to search for the right partner, and we find out that Iskra is really open for the new technologies and also for the digitalization. That's why we approach them, call them, and we agree upon, firstly, with the pilot project, and then later on this developed into business relationship. So they're using our platform as a software as a service, and we're getting paid for that. We are giving them our full support for that, and they are optimizing their process for the supply chain and logistics.
We are getting to the end of our pleasant talk. So just one more question. Iskra, would you marry Smart Cargo again? And Smart Cargo, would you jump into the relationship with Iskra as well?
Definitely, the pilot project was a total success. We have a very good partnership, and we are looking forward for further development with them.
Only one spark was enough to light up this great partnership. So yes, we definitely would. We share same view on many points. Iskra strives towards development and is willing to take some reasonable risk with new technologies, same as we are at Smart Cargo. We are looking forward to new success stories with Iskra and their team.
Thank you for sharing your corpo startup experience with us. You see, it's not so complicated. Step 1, you have to know what you want. Step 2, if you are ready, go for it. And step 3, Future 4.0 platform can actually be your Tinder to find a perfect startup corpo match. Now it's time to see what Jan has prepared for us.
Our next speaker teaches, advises, and mentors at MIT and Harvard University and calls himself a serial entrepreneur since the age of 11. His background is in design, business, and also technology consulting. Today, he will talk about the importance of innovation and why most corporations struggle with it. Please welcome Brian Matt.
Hello, everyone. Corporations think innovation is alien. They know they need it, but are terrified what to do with it once it lands. What is innovation anyway? A useful definition of innovation is easily understood, is simple, and clearly tells you whether something is innovative or not. Definitions do matter. It's hard to have effective discussions and build on concepts without them. And the best definitions are for utility. Mention the word innovation in a corporate context and you're likely to see some eye rolling. The word innovation has turned into something of a buzzword whose application is so broad and nebulous that it often feels useless. I think innovation is the process of creating value by applying novel solutions to meaningful problems. It should be that simple. Among all the activities taken up by a firm, the new product development part must rank as one of the riskiest. Many times the product developed is the first for the organization and the markets addressed are new. The unknowns are very high. However, this activity has begun to be considered critical, not just for growth, but even for survival. Of course, there's a wide range and a spectrum of innovation. Everything from simple color change to make an old product more useful or increasingly unique, to unobtainium and flying cars and robotic clones that will feed soup to grandma and change her diaper. In the stock market, innovators such as Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are both lauded by the press and rewarded with soaring stock prices when investors bet on their game-changing strategies. Being a heterogeneous group, investors have behaved differently when it comes to making investment decisions based on a firm's innovation. Next time you see a new device that makes your dad replace his old one with a new service that makes the millennials go into a frenzy, look back at the share price over a period of time. This will tell you a good story. Innovation and new product activity help in shaping perception in the stock market, and the valuation of shares go up because of a perceived, highlighted, innovative potential. Emotion is a human's strongest force and influences perception. The perception of innovation definitely bolsters a company's market share and beyond the typical linear growth pattern of revenue and profit manifestation through financial engineering, optimizing that human capital, and outright acquisitions. Because this is what I know, let's take a look at a few US-based examples. For your convenience, I've converted all the figures to euros, but stuck with data from 2019 because, as you know, 2020 in the US is like a slow motion apocalypse. With uncontrolled pandemic, economic turmoil, environmental disasters, political irresponsibility, and social unrest. Everything is very abnormal. Let's see what the market thinks about three automotive companies. Shareholders' value maximization principle is perceived to be the core strategic decision in public traded companies. Firm value is determined by the discounted value of estimated future cash flows from a firm's existing business and new business opportunities. The incremental cash flow used as an input in discounted cash flow model largely depends on the ability of firms to generate earnings from a successful new market opportunity. Investors' expectations are factored in the stock price in price to sales ratio. Porsche generated 26 billion euro in 2019 with a market cap of 115 billion euro. That's about half of their annual revenue. Daimler, which makes Mercedes-Benz, had a whopping 173 billion euro in revenue, but only had a third show up in market capitalization. The clear winner here is Tesla, with a market capitalization of over 3 times their revenue. The revenue is the lowest of all three companies. The point I'm trying to share with you is that the stock market values innovation, even if it is just a perception given off by charismatic founders like Elon Musk or unique product launches like the Apple iPhone. In this example, investors are betting high in innovation output of Tesla, though the company has not yet even started making money from a customer and founder point of view. This shows the compelling innovation stories are rated highly in the market and increase the value of a firm. In the electronics retail sector, we see here that eBay has an impressive PS ratio of over 2 times revenue, but this still trails impressive organizations like Amazon and Alibaba. Amazon generated earth-shattering revenue of 239 billion euro and only generates a paltry 4% gross margin to show us a very impressive 3.5 multiple. Even though not profitable, the most impressive example here is Alibaba. Investors' expectations were high in the new product offerings for Amazon that ranges from online stores to subscription services and unique on-premise offerings. But Alibaba achieves a high stock multiple of 39 by leveraging new technologies of network coordination and data intelligence. It harnesses the efforts of thousands of Chinese businesses to create an ecosystem that is faster and smarter and more efficient than traditional business infrastructures. A key component of the stock market's reaction to an organization's performance is its innovation ability. The sustainability of higher expected returns is linked to the potential of the new product to generate incremental cash flow that positively influences the reported earnings. The class of conglomerates is always in flux. The world is changing faster than big companies can keep up. About 50% of Fortune 500 companies from 2000 are completely gone, and the remainder group is shifting, squeezing, and pivoting. GE has weathered some of the worst years in recent history, but has a solid 2019. As of February 2020, shares have fallen a whopping 59% since January 2017, when the company announced it would cut 12,000 jobs. The company's market cap, which stood at 89 billion euro at the time, has fallen significantly to 45 billion euro. Even though less profitable than GE, Philips sports a 2.65 multiplier on 20 billion euro revenue. But look at 3M with 3 times multiplier on revenue. The root of 3M's success is its business model, to foster organic growth by inventing entirely new market-changing products. And in order to foster this growth, 3M has always emphasized the important research and development to which the company dedicates 6% of its yearly revenue. I have visited 3M's Innovation Center, and I can tell you, in Minneapolis, it takes hours and hours to finish the tour. It's so big. It covers 55,000 products across 5 segments, including industrial, safety and graphics, electronics and energy, healthcare, and consumer products. It's impressive. The technology sector is insanely competitive and volatile. One year a company can be the stock market darling, and the next year a unicorn can disrupt and crush that dream. In this example, we see that Dell's PS ratio is only a third of revenue in 2019. Samsung fared much better with a 1.5 multiplier and an amazing 175 billion euro revenue and impressive 41% gross margin. But look at Apple. It has a 2019 market cap of 1 trillion euro on 221 billion euro revenue. That's a 4.5 multiplier. It's not as amazing as Alibaba, but 40 times more profitable. Over the years, Apple has come up with many new revolutionary products in the market. Apple's innovative product launch, starting from the iMac G3 in 1998, the first iPod in 2001, the first iPhone in 2007 with many variants of the same in years later, the first iPad in 2010, and the iWatch in 2014, created a lot of buzz in the consumer market, and the same is reflected in Apple's soaring share price with an average return of 32% until 2019. The double-edged sword is the inability of Apple to meet investors' expectations on a product offering, evidenced by the recent trend of losing more than a quarter of its share in 2020. Most of us here attending this conference, listening to all of the speakers, are probably born innovators. We have an unlimited lifetime supply of ideas. Successfully commercializing even a great idea is very, very challenging. Most of all, corporations struggle with this every day. Let's take a look at some examples. Coca-Cola is a ubiquitous 128-year-old international company that has enjoyed enormous success for most of its existence. But in 1999, they couldn't even put water in a bottle. They had to go and buy Dasani. The product is tap water, filtered and bottled with added sodium. In comparison, Coke is something like 15 to 20 secret ingredients. Now Coca-Cola is saying goodbye to 50% of its beverages. In a health-conscious world, we have lost interest in buying sugar water. Do you know Polaroid? It's an 83-year-old American company best known for its instant film and clunky cameras. Being in Boston, they were a longtime client of mine, so I just know them very well. The problem as I see it was that Polaroid always thought of themselves as a film company, not an imaging company. Even though Polaroid was the first to invent digital photography in 1973, and then they continued pouring millions into its R&D, the company doubled down on its commitment to the film sales for an existing base of those weird cameras. The original Polaroid Corporation was declared bankrupt in 2001, and its branded assets sold off, and the results declared bankruptcy more than 3 times because they stuck with a product producing inexpensive, environmental caustic instant film in a digital world. Google beat Yahoo for one principal reason: an extreme case of aversion to risk. Strike one. In 1998, the dawn of the search age, two graduate students from Stanford named Larry Page and Sergey Brin offered to sell their PageRank algorithm to Yahoo for $1 million. They were flatly refused in a blunder that will go down in history as the biggest ever. Not to risk $1 million on a novel idea such as PageRank in 1998 is now, and always will be, totally incomprehensible. Strike two. Yahoo realized their mistake in 2003 when they had another chance to acquire Google for $5 billion. With all of Google's revenue and earnings and momentum and superior growth, technology, solid brand, and user satisfaction. They failed again because Google asked for $5 billion, but it fell apart when Yahoo did not want to risk supposedly overpaying the $2 billion in a deal valuation. The rest is history. Google has become one of the most successful companies, as we all know, in the history of the entire planet, and likely the only thing Yahoo will be remembered by, sadly, is their failure to make an investment. Okay, as you can tell, there are many obstacles to innovating for and in corporations. Companies are built to grow, not change. Leaders are compensated by increased market share and profitability. Doing something new diverts resources and extends the timeline to realize success. Innovation is typically considered a cost center and not a profit generator. Organizations have discomfort with uncertainty and failure. Companies enjoy the stability that comes from having continuity between the past and future, a future that is familiar, stable, and predictable. They like to feel they are masters of the ship and controller of their fate. So entirely natural to feel out of sorts when the future becomes unknown, an unknown quantity. The world is changing faster than the firms can keep up. It's no secret the world has been changing before our eyes. Think Moore's Law. In order to comfort rapidly evolving around us, and organizations need to have a system in place to adapt and change, but most don't. Whether you're innovating in a corporation or innovating for a corporation, to be successful, you must accomplish three things. First, your idea must be aligned with the mission, strategy, and capabilities of the organization. Imagine trying to get a large pharmaceutical company to create and sell chocolate chip cookies. They may be the best cookies in the world, but the effort likely end in disaster. Second, your offering must be relevant and meaningful to customers. There is no substitute for understanding your audience. You've heard of the 80-20 rule, right? This rule suggests that 20% of your activities will account for 80% of your results. As an entrepreneur, if you're not spending 80% of your time in the field understanding customers, it will be pure luck to make your thing meaningful and relevant. Lastly, it's imperative that your offering is not on parity with your competitors. For clarity, let's take a closer look at the combination of 1 and 2. I learned in innovation and consulting in business school that it's mandatory to have at least one 2x2 quadrant in every presentation. In this example, note that the x-axis represents a spectrum of differentiation. Low product differentiation to high product differentiation. Mild to wild, if you will. The y-axis represents relevance to the consumer, ranging from meh to I love it. And the lower quadrant is called indifference because consumers are not passionate about your offering, nor can they tell one from another. Examples of this are commodities like petrol and pencils. People buy these items on price or convenience. Moving up the y-axis is the commodity quadrant, where consumers really desire what you have, but can't tell your thing from another thing. Typically, there are a lot of competitors in this category, like non-Apple laptops and vodka. Consumers create it because they can, not because they should. Think Windows Vista and Google Glass. What for? I bet you all forgot about them. Early adopters may need these products, but the market is not sustainable because no one loves it. So the category target is with breakthrough ideas that are highly differentiated while also extremely relevant to consumers. This quadrant produces drivers. This is the stuff you gotta have and will likely pay extraordinarily for it. Well-known products in this classification are things like Apple's first new iPhone, and Spanx. You know, those stretchy undergarments that women wear to keep their jiggly bits in place? It's nearly impossible for all the companies' offerings to be drivers, but they only need one to make their brand stand out. This is why companies take a balanced portfolio approach to innovation, so maintaining the core can support activities in adjacent and transformational categories. Core innovation is simply optimizing current products using existing technologies in an existing market. Adjacent innovation expands from existing technologies and new to the company technologies in adjacent markets. And transformational innovation develops breakthroughs and invents things for markets to do that do not exist yet. Again, these are wow, gotta have, and products and services. I hope that my narrow point of view helped you with meaningful insights and help you with an entrepreneurial approach to innovation. So if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with the conference leads, then contact me, pass your question along, and I'm happy to answer them. Thank you, and I wish you well. Happy success.
Hey dear friends, I am Marco from the future. Let's meet.
We are excited to present a person who undertook the risk of starting a new business venture, a person with 15 years of advanced mechatronic system design and development experience. Let's meet Marco Thaler, the leader of Internal Industrial Accelerator Collector Labs in multinational company Collector. He is also directing the development of solutions for smart factories.
We want to create a world where people can live more creative and fulfilling lives, where they can focus on all those tasks that make humans human and let the more mundane, boring ones to high-tech solutions. By combining industrial and collaborative robots with cutting-edge simulation and artificial intelligence technology, we are creating robotic workers that are much more adaptive and intelligent than in the past. Our robot-as-a-service offerings enable you to hire a robotic worker that can work on a myriad of different low-qualified workplaces. In a matter of minutes, you can move them between the predefined workplaces, which provide you with an enormous amount of flexibility, while at the same time being much more economically efficient than human labor. And when you don't need them anymore, well, just let us know, and we'll be happy to take them to other new work adventures. Welcome to the world of more efficient and flexible manufacturing. Allow me to introduce you to our Coco robotic worker. Our guiding vision for Collector Digital was to create breakthrough products and services that would help manufacturing companies become more human-centric, so that people can focus more on their time for creative things that are more rewarding, and let the technology do the repetitive, mundane, boring work for them. Our starting promise was to combine 60 years of manufacturing know-how with exponential digital technologies to create breakthrough products and services for the Industry 4.0. We started off with an open innovation approach and focus on 5 key technologies, namely AI, advanced robotics, automated vision, simulation technologies, and digital platforms. By creating in-house teams and combining them with external startups, we were able to create a critical mass of technological know-how that we were able then to push to individual projects that we were working on. The project selection criteria was actually quite simple. We wanted to create projects that have a global market potential and impact, but at the same time also to challenge the internal pains that we had as a manufacturing group. By creating these new projects, we were able to rapidly prototype the solutions test those solutions in one of our 35 companies worldwide, and quickly iterate on things that worked and disregard the ones that didn't. When we were satisfied with the performance of these new solutions, we ship them now to the world. Our competitive advantage, both from the market perspective and also from the startup company's perspective, is that we have a really rich domain knowledge from manufacturing activities, that we have a playground at our disposal where we can test out individual ideas and quickly iterate what works and what doesn't, and at the same time to provide funding for these new projects. Also, extremely important is that we have a brand name behind us where we also can tap into our existing client base and sales network. So if you have some breakthrough projects you would like to cooperate on, please let us know. Take care and see you soon.
So Marko, what do you think? Is COVID yin or yang for business opportunities?
I think that as any situation in life, it all depends on how you look at it. So you can always see that the glass is half empty or half full. And I think that no matter what, always stressful situations can bring a lot of good if you take the energy and apply it in the right direction. So I always think that change is good, especially for those that are really flexible and can take advantage of it. So I don't have any specific feelings about it, but any change is always an opportunity to bring things forward.
Are robotic workers hot stuff today?
Robotics is always quite a hot field, if you want to, but it's definitely a lot of people, especially from the perspective that workers are not always available, especially in the situation that's currently in, and in connection that low qualified workers are really hard to get for industrial manufacturing. I think this is an advantage for us that we can take to fruition. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's more positive than negative on the bottom line here.
In time of COVID, did your solutions increase your sales?
As we discussed previously, every situation can also be an opportunity. And one of those opportunities we took into account is to create a measurement system for temperature for humans called Cordea.
Cordea. We live in a different world today. We are aware of changes and uncertainties. We are a generation of technology, but more than ever we value the basic values such as health. Cordea, a fever detection system, was developed in order to protect those elementary values. Cordea is a fully automatic, contactless, fast and reliable solution for detecting people with fever and preventing the rapid spread of viral diseases. Fever is one of the first symptoms of diseases such as COVID-19, seasonal flu, and other respiratory infections. Cordea is adapted for indoor use in companies and public institutions with a large flow of people. It can work as a standalone solution, or it can be connected with the back-end system such as access control. It enables automatic messaging in case of detected fever and remote control. Since the system is fully automated, operator is not required. In contrast to other thermography solutions, it is easy to use. It features a minimalist control panel that displays the status of the device and guides the user. The instructions are very intuitive. All components of the system are integrated into one housing, which allows universal placement. Cordea can assure repeatable measurement results without false detections. Cordea is compliant with GDPR, meaning that image information is captured and analyzed exclusively on the device and is not stored. The solution was developed in accordance with the only standard that defines the regulation of individual non-invasive thermographic measurements of body temperature. Comprehensive knowledge, experience, and interdisciplinary skills of the experts who have been designing complex solutions for industry based on visual technologies for more than 20 years were crucial for the successful development of Cordea. We are very proud that Cordea is a result of own development in order to improve your lives.
Hey dear friends, I am Marco from the future. Let's meet female electrical engineer who fights against stereotypes and glass ceilings and strives for equality. Emilia Stoimenova-Duh, the table is yours.
Marco, did you forget something? Are you preparing a dinner with Emilia on the exciting round table? No, so what is next on the schedule for the Future 4.0 conference?
Roundtable, new technologies for better future.
collaborating with a corporate in Kranj. Damir, can you explain us your experience with the Iskratel Smart Factory project? So you're leading a CEO of a startup company, and we would like to hear more about collaborating with corporates.
Very good. I think it's funny that you're mentioning startup because usually the people around this company don't want to hear that one. But it's a nice thing because we have a mentality of the startup, and we started basically as a startup with all of the ideas, innovations. So coming back to the question about the smart factory, so what we did together with Iskratel and Iskratel team in that time was leveraging technology in the first place, and to understand, how can you kind of show to the audience and to the people and to the companies like Iskratel what, for example, benefits of the technology like 5G could be. What are the benefits of the technologies like augmented reality? What are the benefits of including technologies like blockchain and mapping it to the SIP systems? So all of those were kind of challenges at the beginning because I think even for Slovenia and even for Iskratel, all of that was a kind of a pretty immature when we started. But we had a goal to have a first introduction of the 5G to the industrial sector, and that goal was achieved. So during the January-February this year, we matched quite a strong ecosystem, similar like what Andrej was saying for the Smart Kranj. I think here it was pretty similar. So we gain on the knowledge of the very good companies around us. So we were not there alone, and everybody took their own part with a kind of a same goal. And I think after the couple of months of let's say of minimum valuable proposition that we started to basically work, we found out that somehow we have a very valuable kind of a proposition for outside, and that one included all of those technologies that I mentioned at the beginning. Today, I think we can proudly say that somehow we are using it. It's already for 1 year, I would say, the technology kind of is in the process and operations, and we are kind of measuring what is the most important out of that, the efficiency of the production. So the smart factory was kind of equal to the production that Iskratel basically does on the hardware side, and then we are now kind of through the whole year measuring what's the kind of efficiency that we see based on the last years where this technology was not there. I think one of the most important lessons learned is that before you start, you don't know. So I think that awareness about the need about those kind of technologies was not there. So we needed to kind of start pushing those things, trying, using, failing, so on, to create awareness. And first of all, with the people that are using technology, and this is the Iskratel production, and then as well with the people that were kind of involved to monetize out of this technology. So this means business development out of that. So we are standing right now, I think, in front of the 2021, where we think that somehow similar things, or even same in some cases, will be pretty much kind of seen in other factories in Slovenia. And we think that somehow with this successful case and successful collaboration with the partners, we are very good on a very good position to basically attack those. So that's in a nutshell about the Iskratel Smart Factory.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing the best practices, but also the lessons learned, because a lot of times they're even more valuable. And there's one more thing we would like to hear more from you, and this is about industry marketplace. What that really is, and how can startups leverage from it?
Well, I think like 2020 was the first 5G for the industries. I think we have now another thing is like first industry marketplace in the Central Europe. And I think that's the kind of the right way how to call this one is the business and technology collaboration point, like what marketplaces are usually are. But this one will be used in particular for the industries in Slovenia and for the abroad. I think Croatia and Croatia and Austria are basically the second kind of wave that we have in our plans. And what this does, basically, it matches the collaboration between the different industry verticals like energy, transport, utility, I don't know, smart cities, and so on. And matches kind of on the business level, different partners, different productions, different producers, and different consumers. I think it's a great place for the startups because I think that startups methodology and the way how the startups want to do the business is digital. And I think this kind of an approach that we will open will just enable and short the time frame that startups needs to have for reaching the customers with their kind of products and solutions. If those ones will be from the kind of industry digitalization side, then I think this marketplace is a perfect place to start for them.
Perfect. Thanks again for sharing this with us. And now we're moving to Jana, from Iskratel. Can you explain us how can 5G help companies of different sizes, startups, small and medium enterprises, then large companies? And then are there any differences between industries? Can certain industries take particular advantage of 5G?
Thank you, Amelia, for the question. Yes, we are, like Damir explained at the beginning of the 5G for different industries. Actually, this was the first year. There are pilot projects. Initially, the 5G network will be launched for commercial purposes because devices are there. Operators want to market the new service also with new phones which are coming out. And let's say the industry sector will come later. Actually, we can learn already from 4G private LTE, so-called private LTE deployments, which are already happening around the world. We are also involved in those projects. The ecosystem there is much more mature. Devices are there, the frequencies are there. Operators know how to manage it, and there is also a new business model being established. So in different countries, we have different models, but our experience is that the operators are giving the, let's say, radio access, and companies are building their own networks. So the private core, and the reason why they are doing is to provide SLA for their, let's say, managing heavy machinery. We are talking about big companies here initially. So companies like oil and gas, where they need to manage the plants, or mines where they manage heavy machinery, remote management of these machines. They cost millions, so they have to be always in operation. And these networks, let's say, which are coming from the carrier space, they provide a different level of SLA, security, quality of service than the, let's say, existing private network technologies like Wi-Fi or others. Similar will be the case with 5G, which has been now standardized and already deployed, let's say, for high-speed, high broadband applications, so video, so augmented reality, and this type of applications. This is the standard where the standardization and deployments are right now. But there are new innovations coming in 5G, like location sensing, like let's say vehicle-to-vehicle communication, and this type of innovations, which will enable also, let's say, autonomous, not just driving. This will be in later stage, but autonomous vehicles within the companies manufacturing robots and this type of application. So I would say that initially these private LTE and then private 5G networks will be mostly used by the bigger companies initially. Of course, later on, as the ecosystem will expand and innovation will come, then it will be used also in medium-sized and smaller companies. But for those companies, the business model will be different. Probably the network will be managed by the operators through through the virtualization technology. So the 5G comes with the so-called slicing. So you can slice the network and for different applications or different companies. So we can say the 5G will bring private, let's say, carrier-grade private networks will scale also to the smaller deployments. And it will come in the later stage. Innovation, I would say, is now happening in the bigger industries and companies.
Thanks for that. And just maybe just one more question. So because you need people, you need experts for these things to work, especially for the new technologies, for innovations in the large companies as well. So how companies such as Iskratel make sure they attract and also retain the best experts in the field? So because we know that people are the most important element for success.
It's a, let's say, challenge. We don't solve this challenge just in Slovenia. Of course, we know Slovenia is a smaller market. We have companies in Russia, in Macedonia. We also partner with companies in the Far East. So when we develop our products, so I would say it's a more global place, but of course. It's always a challenge to find a good talent and also to retain it.
Okay, thank you. So we're moving now to Jure Vrhovnik. And Jure, what kind of funding is available for financing digital projects in Slovenia? I'm sure that the audience is interested in this as well.
Yes, I must say that in the past, there were a lot of tenders calls for that SMEs they were able to get some money for digitalization of their processes. And if we are talking about these possibilities, we should mention there were 4 of vouchers. It's a special product from Slovenian Enterprise Fund for to raise digital competencies, to solve the digital marketing. To have some new solutions, cybersecurity and digital strategy. It was, I must know, very, very popular by the SMEs because it was like 60%, up to 60% funding. And the top was a little bit less than 10,000 euros, possibility to get this money. Then we had also one bigger tender. It was P4D, also from Slovenian Enterprise Fund, and it was up to 100,000 euros of subvention for digitalization or digital transformation of SMEs. And the last call were like 2 months ago, and it was like more than 200 or more than 300 applicants for like 75 possibilities. 75 companies were able to get this money, and there were a lot of more of applicants. So there are also some other programs from Spirit. It's also an agency, Slovenian agency. It's e-poslovanje or e-business, and it was mentioned, to gain money for new channels, sales channels for to go abroad, to go to other markets, and it was like 70% subvention, and it was between 5,000 and 30,000 euros was this subvention. And there was also very similar call from Spirit. It's like a public call for co-financing of sales channels and marketing materials, also to be successful on different markets. And there is another call. These calls are all closed now, but I have my information is that there will be reopened in similar way next year because the funds were already empty. And we have one tender is open until the 15th of December. It's a DigiFed. It's a program that for SMEs can get 55,000 euros for upgrading their products with these Digi components. Like if you are having like a physical products, and if you are able to manage it, to make some digitalization on it, you can get this money. There are quite a lot of opportunities.
So these are the opportunities from out of Slovenia. So there are additional funds as well. and we'll be very happy to help you if the companies, anyone in the audience listens to this at the 4P Digital Innovation Hub. We will be very happy to assist you and support you to getting these funds from programs from the European Commission. Thank you, Jure. We're moving now to the State Secretary, and I'm sure that we're all very interested in how the government is planning to support the digital transition of the country as a whole. So who and what will be funded?
Okay, thanks for the question. As we all know, the digital and digitalization basically is a horizontal topic, yeah? So I would like to emphasize that my answers will not wholly cover the whole field of digitalization, yeah? I'm looking mostly from the point of view of the Ministry of Public Administration, which is also responsible for digitalization of public admin, yeah? MJU, Ministry of Public Admin, is also acting in this National Recovery and Resilience Plan as a hub for 10 ministries, where we are collecting together all their plans for digitalization. So I can talk from this point of view, and I think I have quite good overview about that. So especially because Ministry of Public Admin is also responsible for approximately half of the government institutions to be in charge for the IT. So as you know, we have basically two main topics, I would say two main fundings available, which are now still in planning phase. So one is next cohesion plan 21-27, and the second one is RRF, so Recovery and Resilience Plan 21-26. So we are currently at the last phases, I would say, has to be done up to the end of the year, of the planning for RRF, together with the Government Office for Development and European Cohesion Policy. And as you might know, from the European Commission, there is a strong suggestion that 20% of all the investments should be in digital, yeah, should go to digital and for digital projects. So in terms of technologies and areas of digitalization, I can say that in the future we really wish to support the evolution of artificial intelligence area, solutions of smart cities and communities. As you might know, we are just on the eve of releasing the public tender for smart cities. Finally, I reckon this will be issued in January or even now in December. Depends on Office for Development and European Cohesion Policy as well. As well, we will, in overall, support the environment for digitalization, and of course the promotion of other advanced technologies, for example, like cyber security. What we also wish, and we will strongly support in the future, as we are supporting now, is the, I would say, gigabit infrastructure, which is the basis for everything, for all the communication and for all other IT technology. So we expect to finance projects of companies, local communities, as this will happen now in smart cities tender, NGOs and other institutions. Of course, it depends on the purpose of project and I would say measures on the project. So if I go now really to be more specific about the Ministry of Public Admin, what we are planning to do basically for government informatics and for wider community is, as I said, we are planning to release in the next these initiatives approximately 60 to 80 million, or if possible even more. Let's be, this is disclaimer, it's not approved yet. Co-foundings for gigabit infrastructure for optic cables, to cover white spots where there is no market interest. We really want to renovate the government information infrastructure, upgrade the communication infrastructure as well. We see that, now also government has started, for example, to have this kind of video calls in the COVID times, So the bandwidth here is really necessary to have sufficient. And this is basically the infrastructure which is providing the digital services to public sector. So we need to also create data and public cloud policies. That's something we don't have it really. We don't know actually what kind of data can be published to public cloud, for example. So we need to create this. Of course, we are looking forward to develop new services for all the citizens, which will be based more and more on mobile services, and of course on new and modern technologies. What we also need to provide is and secure is really to have emphasis on cybersecurity, and to what hasn't been so much exposed now in last years. I would say the overall enterprise architecture of government should be more clearly stated, also somehow put in place also the agile development and agile implementation of IT solutions. So that's my answer in short or in long.
Thanks a lot. So I wanted to ask, my next question was about the strategic plans for the development of the holistic information society, but you already started elaborating on this. But something that came up to my mind when Jure was explaining that the companies were able to get digital vouchers to make them easier for the digital transition processes. Are you considering also at the Ministry for Public Administration a similar instrument for the municipality? So, for example, Andras was explaining smart community of crime. So maybe it will be even faster for the municipalities to get some funds to implement digital projects.
So right now, what we are planning right now in current cohesion schema, as I mentioned, is a smart city, where we are infusing 16 million of euros into this into smart city projects. It is aimed to be for municipalities for R&D area, research and development R&D projects, up to the very high level of I would say completion of the project, so that the project can very easily go into the production. And this means that this money is actually for startups, companies, or whoever will then cooperate with municipalities, and as well for the citizens of municipality, in order to get some smart solutions. So in the next schema and also in RRF, we are planning to extend basically this approach, but I would say that this is still open. We can define currently, I would say, whatever instrument of help to municipalities we wish to. So it's basically it's open still. We might still decide and consider this kind of instruments.
Perfect, and we hope we can elaborate with you more on these ideas in the future as well. So, Jure, we heard that there are some funds in Slovenia available for the companies, for the municipalities, but what is the European Commission planning to fund as well? Because we know that there are different programs there and there are funds available there as well, maybe even more than we have them in the country.
Yes, there will be a lot of possibilities to gain money for this digitalization or on this digitalization sector. Of course, the main program is Digital Europe, and it's like for 8.2 billion euros will be put into the market for projects who will or that will change not just mindset but also make transitions on SMEs fields, on public life and so on. And this Digital Europe is like they're having four main sectors: supercomputing, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and advanced digital skills. And also digital innovation hubs are also part of this program. But not just this, but also other programs like Horizon, Connecting Europe facilities, Europe Digital, SME Alliance, Next Generation EU. All of these programs are having also, they have, but they will also have in the future tenders, calls, on the field of digitalization. And this is a big opportunity for all of us, not just for SMEs, but also for big companies, for public part and education sector, that we can go ahead with these steps of digitalization. I must say, my personal opinion is that COVID is a very bad situation, but if you are looking for something good in the bad situation, what we done in the last 6 months or 8 months, I think that if we will not be in this situation, Slovenia will need a lot more time, to go ahead with digitalization. So let's make something good from the bad situation and be the best or very, very progressive in digitalization of all parts of our lives.
Well said. We already received a question from the audience. I will read the question and then I will ask one of our panelists, or maybe more of you, to provide some answers. So the question was, how can a small team of digital reality creators pitch in during the pandemic? We at Tovarna Tech have been lucky enough to have just finished with a major project, machine learning VR simulation, together with Jožef Stefan Institute and this is Technology Park Ljubljana, just before the pandemic reached Europe. So we were free to utilize some of our toys, namely 3D scanning, modeling, previews, and visual collaboration tools in VR, together with 3D printing to come up with FFP3 plus face mask, already in testing and in use. I think this is University Clinical Center Ljubljana and the Hospital of Izola. So turns out the wonderful tech we're playing with on a daily basis can pivot exceptionally fast and between so many fields. So the question is how they can pitch during the pandemic. I think it's a very good question, and I know that Jure has some background in that and can help them with some ideas, but also would be good to know from the corporates. Can small companies just knock on your door and present you great ideas? We were talking about innovations previously.
Maybe if I can jump in. So we probably you have heard this year, end of June, beginning of July, we were acquired by S&T Group, and all the pitching was done through, and all the meetings were virtual. So during the first wave, we had this big, let's say, business operation happening through video conferences and remote work. So it's possible, and yeah, we also. It was between the first and second wave, we organized hackathon. It was half virtual, half physical. So we believe it's possible, and we have a real example.
So my advice for the company would be just send them an email and tell them what do you have. And then they will find a way how to pitch your idea virtually. So to somehow conclude with our roundtable, I would like to come with another last question for all our participants. And we would like to hear from you, what are the trends in digitalization for your own sectors? We know that this is a fast-moving segment, but what do you think? Where are the trends in digitalization? So maybe, Andras, we can start with you.
So in the sector that 3FS works in, so that is telco, fintech, medical tech, and Industry 4.0, I think the biggest trend is to move as close to the hyperscale cloud providers as possible. Because those three players plus some other, let's say, a bit more niche players have so much weight in terms of R&D behind them that it's just impossible to compete with them head-to-head or face-to-face or head-to-head basically anymore. That's one thing. The other thing, what is definitely seen in our world, is the fact that companies that were not digital first, they need to leapfrog these, steps in the digitalization, and you can leapfrog by doing three things. One is work with outside companies that can help you. The other one is to, really, really fastly execute by bringing internal talents into the core companies, or buying companies that already know what they're doing. And we are seeing mostly the combination of the first and the last steps. So using outside knowledge and potentially acquiring companies that have them. If we can apply this to our region, I think our region lags behind. So we are still debating whether the public clouds are something that are trustworthy. Which is interesting. And we still haven't seen, or I still haven't seen, a lot of mergers and acquisitions being done with potentially, if you look at what happened with Iskratel, that was a positive signal in that sense, but I haven't seen many other signals in that area, which means that probably we'll be seeing a wave of M&As happening in the next couple of years.
Thank you. So we're moving to Damir. Damir, I promise I will not use the word startup next to be in anymore.
No, just do it. Just do it. I think I think it's okay. I'll take it a little bit from the different perspective. I think maybe technology trends, and I'd say business trends. Technology trends are kind of very interesting, and connecting it as well with this pitching and how you pitch your ideas, how much digitalized you could be. I think there are a couple of things that are kind of very sexy, coming very fast, and I think it would be very pity not to be part of that. Internet of the senses. I think it's not anymore even Internet of the things. I think we are discussing about Internet of the senses. It's a very kind of interesting thing for the young startups, I would say. Then what Andras was kind of mentioning, I think the overall automation of the physical world. This is kind of what we are doing with the industry. This is what we are doing with the residential. I think this automation is kind of just getting even bigger and I would say stronger from the perspective of the future that is coming. And I think the third thing that we really shouldn't forget about, I think you mentioned a couple of fonts on this call as well, is the sustainable technology and how much digitalized is connected with the green, and how much basically carbon emissions and zero carbon emissions are important, I would say, for the environment. I think we are not alone here, and only discussing about a technology would be kind of completely nonsense in perspective that technology will not basically keep us alive there. And I think those are, I would say, three major pillars that I see from perspective of digitalization. I think last one that I see from perspective of how we will collaborate, I think just if you imagine what 4G brought to the topic, like companies like WhatsApp, Uber, Snapchats, and so on, I expect that new technology enablers will bring the new I would say business collaboration segments, And I think I'm really kind of curious what 5G and then 6G, I would say, from perspective of the connectivity enablers will do to make this kind of business relations faster and more efficient for the company involved.
Okay, thank you. And it's good that you mentioned that we need to consider sustainability as well, and digital technologies can really support that. So, Janez, what about you? Where do you see the trends?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Okay, I think we have seen in last decade or so digitalization of, let's say, virtual industries more. So finance, media, communication, and so on. These industries are already quite digitalized. And of course, the trend is ongoing with artificial intelligence, other things, big data, and so on. But we will see in the next decade digitalization of physical industries, like Damir mentioned. And here, the 5G and the next generation of connectivity comes in. So we are at the beginning of that. It started with 4G, actually, with IoT. It's happening now. And we will see innovation there, hopefully also from the startups which are present at this event. We also created this new company, Bein, which is Damir heading now, because we believe in this innovation for the, let's say, private, so for the within the industries, and we want to be in this segment. Slovenia we see as, let's say, innovation hub for this kind of solutions. For innovation for utilities, for logistics, for the manufacturing, and so on. Applications will come. When we were talking, let's say 20 years ago with broadband, what is the killer app of internet? And then what is the killer app? Oh, 1 meg is enough ADSL, there is no killer app. And then we saw the apps were coming, so the killer app was internet as a platform. So then for the 4G, of course, it was the smartphone. And now for the 5G, we are still waiting, let's say, for the killer app, but maybe just the platform again. So we see this ecosystem coming. And of course, with such infrastructure, innovation, evolution is always about the ecosystem, devices, applications, cloud. So I would see this combination of, let's say, edge cloud and the private network. These are the technical enablers for the innovation which is coming to the industries.
Thank you. So it's good to know that it's also coming to the physical industries as well. We're not staying only to the services. Jure, what about you? Where do you see the future?
So my colleagues were talking about the technological part of the future. I mean, what will be happening in the next year or next 10 years. I will talk a little bit about what I see, what are the trends in using digitalization or using the digital tools for living, for businesses and so on. As I mentioned before when I was talking, there was a very big push in digitalization, not just in SME, at the SMEs, but also in education, in public life. And I think that this trend will go on, and that more or less all companies will make some progress and will not just one step, but they will have to do it for 3-4 steps, because otherwise digitalization is not nice to have, but it's now in these times. So this is like must. We have, the companies have to do that, otherwise they will not be able to survive. And I'm not talking about just about the very innovative technological startups or SMEs and so on companies, but I'm talking about the whole sector, or all SMEs that they have to change to some point or some level of digitalization of their business processes. So there will be a lot to do in the next years.
That is correct. And our last speaker, you are the state secretary and you should have this overall picture. So what are the trends in the most broad level as possible for our country? Are we moving closer to Estonia or somewhere else?
Okay, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Slovenia's vision, I would say, is to use this development opportunities in IT and technologies in IT with internet actually to accelerate the digital society. And in this way, we also would like to become let's put it that way, a reference environment for innovative approaches, for innovative solutions, and with the use of new digital technologies. Yeah. So probably you're aware of Digital Slovenia 2016-2020. So we are creating new version of Digital Slovenia 21-27 strategy, which will focus basically in six areas. One of the first of the area is so it's gigabit infrastructure, which means further development of the networks, which are basis for all the ICT. So we are focusing here on the broadband and on 5G. As you know, or maybe we are in the final phase at the government to issue auctions for machine-to-machine frequencies in 700 megahertz band. We are also very close to issue 5G multiband, also multiband auctioning, including 5G frequencies for operators. And yeah, okay, this is about gigabit infrastructure. The second one is data economy, where we aim to use and open the accessibility for open data, to harness the power of data and increase the number of digital services in public admin, including municipalities. Yeah. The third one, where we as Slovenians can be very, very proud, is artificial intelligence. We are creating at Ministry of Public Admin the national program for AI. And we would really like that Slovenia is recognized even more worldwide in artificial intelligence as it is already. You might know that in Institute of Josef Stefan, so we have UNESCO Global Artificial Intelligence Research Center in Ljubljana, in Institute of Josef Stefan as a first of the kind worldwide. The fourth one basically is cybersecurity, also as a future trend, as you mentioned. I think here we are somehow lagging behind and we need to accelerate. This is very, very important for Slovenia as a country to have a trusted environment for companies, for citizens to live in. So we need to here accelerate our awareness, our culture about cybersecurity and so on. The fifth one is what already spoken a little bit, is digital public admin, to simplify, to connect, where necessary to develop services for citizens with a focus on end user experience, with a focus on citizens. And the sixth one, I would say, is digital inclusion, where it means strengthening and fostering the environment for growing digital literacy of the citizens, population as a whole, and to ensure all the inclusion of the citizens, also the minorities. Yeah. In addition, you might know, which is coming very, very quickly now, in a little bit more than half a year, we will have a new biometric personal ID. It's coming in August, and we are giving towards to produce all the laws and everything that we will include also the electronic ID on the personal card, including the health insurance ID. to have a kind of one-stop shop, I would say, ID card. So I will conclude here. I will not talk about trends. I think that colleagues have already talked about technologies. I talked more about what's the vision for the next, I would say, 5 to 7 years for Slovenia, where we as a community will evolve. And these are these 6 areas where we will elaborate them in the more in details, and in the coming half a year, Digital Slovenia 21-27 strategy will see the light. Thanks.
Thank you. This was also very useful to have this vision. So we're coming to the end of this discussion, and I would only like to conclude with the thought that digital technologies are only useful if they're aimed to solve people's lives and to enhance people's lives. So we always must have in mind the people when using digital technologies. That is why we're also using the term human-centered digital transformation. Thanks a lot to all my speakers today. Thanks a lot to the audience who stayed with us, and I hope that we answered your questions. We will be happy to get in touch with you, so you can find us on LinkedIn, on other social networks. You can always send us an email if you need some more information. So I hope you're going to enjoy the conference till the end, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, my name is Islam, and it's a great privilege to introduce our next keynote speaker, Dr. Boris Cergol. If you are a cooperative attendee, you will want to remember that Dr. Cergol works as a head of AI unit in a Comtrade Digital Service. He is also serving as an executive board member of Initiative AI for Slovenia, and is also a member of AI top team advising National Standards Authority of Ireland. If you are a startup, you will want to remember that Dr. Cergol was a member of successful Slovenian startup Etkimo and is a mentor for startups in TechStart Montreal AI Accelerator. Dr. Cergol possesses in-depth expertise in helping clients to overcome challenges and identify relevant solutions to support their requirements. If you're an ordinary human like me, you will want to remember that when AI takes control of the world, Dr. Boris Cergol is the name who will help you get your personal AI dog, named Future. Yes, AI loves Future community, and I'm just reading this script hoping that AI will find this funny in the future. And now, back to the talk. If we listen closely to Dr. Cergol keynote, you will find more about GPT-3 language model that everybody is talking about. Why it is important to be in contact with AI, how can we use AI to be one step in front of our competition? Can we trick AI or use deepfake in our advantage, and much more?
Hi, things are going great. A lot is happening with AI and otherwise. So during my talk today, I will explain a bit about what I see are the major things that are changing with AI. How is AI as it is today different than it used to be not so long ago, and where this might lead us. So I will start though with one thing that is staying somewhat the same. So, and this is deep learning. So this technology has been around for a while, and even though many people think that it is time for something new to replace it, I personally think that it will stay here for a while more. So to just say a few words about deep learning, there are basically two main big reasons why it is such a popular method today. So the first one is the fact that compared to classical algorithms, so classical machine learning, where basically data scientists had to manually create the necessary representations of the data and often needed a lot of effort and domain knowledge to do that. In deep learning, if we have enough data, the algorithm is capable to find these by themselves from raw data, which is a very nice property to have. And then the second reason is the one that you can see on the right chart. And so this is all about how the performance of deep neural networks increases as we add additional data. So with classical algorithms, we often get to a certain limit where adding additional data doesn't lead us anywhere. But here with deep learning, there seems to be a constant growth as we add further data. And so basically, what is the main problem that we have with deep learning? What are the main issues? So at least up to now, the main way of doing deep learning was usually supervised learning. So most of the results that you have seen up to now were done with this process. So in supervised learning, what you have to do basically is take data and do annotations. You have to basically tell what is in the data before the computer starts learning the patterns. And since I've mentioned that deep learning works great if we have a lot of data, this also means that we have to do an extreme amount of data labeling. This is a difficult, expensive process. Often today, special companies that employ specialized data labelers are employed for that, sometimes small armies of them. Since of course this was even some time ago recognized as a big problem, there was a lot of consideration into how to solve it, how to make this process better. So for example, here I have a statement from one of the more famous researchers in the area of AI who said, I think it was a few years ago, that the next revolution that will happen in AI will definitely not happen using supervised methods. And then in recent times, a new approach appeared, and it's called semi-supervised approach. So what does this mean? So instead of just taking raw data and putting and finding the right labels for it, in semi-supervised approach, we take a piece of data, so we remove something from it and use what remains to try to guess what is missing. So here I have a very simple example. If we go in the domain of natural language processing, let's say that we have a single sentence and we basically remove the last word and try to guess what it is by looking at the rest of the sentence. And something similar can also be done with images or other types of data. So basically in this way, the labels generate themselves. And in just very recently, this approach was massively applied to natural language processing, so on very large data sets of language. And what we saw in the last 2 years was that as this size of data increased, also the size of the models increased, and it did so exponentially. But the biggest jump that happened in the size of the models happened in May this year, when the US company OpenAI released their GPT-3 model. And so it was, in size of its parameters, it was more than 100 times larger than its previous version and 10 times larger than the previously biggest model. Of course, the size itself is a bit surprising, but what is more surprising is its capability. So GPT-3 as a model is basically just a generator of text. So it basically just tries to predict the word that is missing. But since it has learned on such a large data set, so after trying to successfully predict so many missing pieces, it has gained some skills that are very interesting. So there's a diagram here, and I'll try to explain it. So first of all, if we look at the outer loop of this represents the process that is happening in the so-called pre-training phase. So this is actually when the model is looking at all those sentences and trying to learn what the next word is. However, then after this pre-training is completed, it gets a piece of text. And in this piece of text, of course, it can be anything, right? But we can put in tasks. So basically, we can tell to the model Here are a few examples of a task and its solution, and then we ask it something and ask it to complete. And since it has learned so much in this pre-training, it is actually capable of solving very different tasks. And all this using only a single model, so without having to do any modifications on it. So the model, what it can do in practice, it can be very creative. It can generate all kinds of text, so poetry, letters, emails, news. It can detect sentiment. It can be used as a chatbot. It also can answer questions based on the whole data that it was learned on. And this is definitely kind of a next step towards moving from kind of this niche specialized AI where we have to label a lot of data and train it on a specific task, towards having some system that can easily generalize to others as well. Well, to tell you a bit about consequences of this. So up to now, when we were discussing how basically AI is developing, often there was this trinity of factors that contribute to its development. So we saw was basically data, especially proprietary data. So data that only a certain individual or a company might have and no one else. We had algorithms, so basically the methods used to train the models. And then we also, of course, had the compute, so the computers capable of doing these calculations. And often it was a kind of balance between those categories, how development went. But now, with this capability of doing such large pre-trainings of models, the importance of compute is basically overshadowing the other two factors. So we do not have to put so much effort into finding just the right algorithm for the task. And we maybe even don't have to have a large amount of proprietary data or even labeled data to use it in order to deploy models such as GPT-3. And of course, some people who love algorithms, who like to discover this hidden complexity in them and even find beauty in them, are kind of disappointed because it seems like these things that we maybe couldn't even think of to achieve with algorithms we have now done by simple methods applied on very large amount of compute. And there's this statement by, again, a quite famous researcher, Richard Sutton, who is saying that this is a bitter lesson, that we have learned basically that compute overshadows our methods. So I talked about generating text, but with today's AI, it's also possible to generate many other things. So here you can see how generation of images developed through the years. So the progress was also quite rapid, and even the last stage is not the latest one, because now this generation has gone also to music, to video, to sound, and so on. So here is actually a whole landscape of companies who are working on the area of synthetic data. And I'm talking about this now because I think it's a kind of a misunderstood, or at least currently misunderstood area of AI. Basically, people often connect this generation of synthetic data with the deepfakes. And always focus on potentially malicious usage of this. However, in fact, we can also look at all this capability as kind of giving AI creativity and also democratizing creativity, especially if we connect this media with the previously mentioned GPT-3 model. Okay, so this was a part about generation, which I think is a really, really important trend that will have many, many consequences going forward. But of course, the most usual application of deep learning methods up to now was perception. So basically using them to detect things in images, in text, and so on. And one trend that is happening now is that this AI used as perception is basically becoming a commodity. So perhaps a company who is involved in AI would be hard-pressed to create a lasting edge by focusing just on this perception part. So here on the images are some example, from data sets with people, so detecting actions, detecting faces, pose detection, and so on. But of course, many more can be done. What is interesting with these methods of AI, using AI in perception, is also where does all this processing happen. So here again, I think that there are some misconceptions. So I think there's a strong expectation from quite a few people that we will always do these things in the cloud. However, I think that the real trend, at least in this area, is that all this will move towards the edge of the networks, so that we would basically do all this processing on small devices very close to where the data is being generated. And currently, I think that there are more than 80 companies who have already released or are planning to release devices that have specialized chips that will support this edge computing. And edge computing has at least for this type of use case, many benefits. So one is, of course, the price. It can be quite a bit cheaper than using the cloud. There's also latency. There is safety, because if the connection is lost, we don't have to worry about anything. And there is also privacy, a very, very important consideration. So as I mentioned, with all this AI as perception becoming a commodity, with all this computing power becoming available, and all these devices that will be used to basically also gather data from us, of course the question arises, how will we survive this type of surveillance capitalism where basically companies can use this technology to learn things about us that maybe we would not like to share. And often the answer to this question, at least kind of a mainstream answer, is that we should do regulation. We should not allow those companies to misuse these methods and so on. And I think that's great. I think regulation in this area definitely needs to happen, but I also think that it is not enough. And what I think that actually has to happen is that we start using AI to also protect the rights and the privacy of individuals. And in what way might this happen? I think it will happen through using a type of intelligent agents. So I already mentioned the capability to generate synthetic data. So this can be used for a bad purpose, for creating deep fakes, but it can also be used to protect our privacy. Like for example, if we use a kind of avatar that is cleaned up of any underlying data that we might not wish to share when we present ourselves in this way, these methods can and will be ensuring our privacy. But also regarding the information that we are exposed to. So it is quite well-known occurrence currently that basically our attention span hacking is happening, where companies compete for our attention. So I imagine that we will soon reach a point where we will have this agent who will filter this information for us. And this will possibly be one of the solutions, at least in part, to this problem. However, the question now is, how can these agents that are tailored to the individuals, how can they learn from other agents so that they can compete against those larger systems who have a centralized repository of data? And there are very different approaches to that, but one that is really gaining in popularity now, and is again another one of those changing trends that I think are well worth looking into, is so-called federated learning. So in federated learning, you have basically that learning happens at the individual device. So basically the model learns only on all the data from a single individual, and then instead of sending your personal data to a central repository, you send this model, and these models are then combined together to form a model that contains information about certain patterns, but not your private data. And of course, this approach can again be used for good or evil purposes, but in any case, I think that it can help make such protective agents stronger. So I've talked a bit about the potential to AI to manipulate things like users or images and so on. But I think that definitely a next stage that will happen will be using robotics, because after robotics gets widespread, this will enable the interaction between the AI system and the physical environment. And of course, we already have robots, naturally, but they are not yet widespread. And the methods that will make them truly compatible with our environments are only now being developed. And also as a consideration for startup companies. So it's difficult to develop hardware, especially complex hardware. However, here I think that we will reach a point very soon where we will have kind of robots as a platform. And already there are some examples of this in the image from Boston Dynamics and their Chinese competitor, where you could invest and buy this robot, but not have to develop the whole platform for yourself. And this part about getting platforms available is actually, again, the trend that we have very fast falling barriers to entry to the field of AI. So what this means is that people who used to work in AI had to be very much specialized in this area. So basically, very, very deeply involved with the algorithms. But now different trends are enabling people who are not such deep specialists to also adopt these methods. So for example, we have a very strong initiative called AutoML, which is all about the algorithms learning from the data by themselves without needing any actually or very little manual work happening. And also the tools that are now used to support AI development are getting very, very good compared to what we used to have. And of course, the learning resources are incredible. So this is, I would say that a good way or a good signal for companies to stop maybe thinking that they can only do AI or data science by setting up very, very, teams of very deep specialists. They should maybe consider to try to train other members of their workforce in these methods so they can realize the full potential of AI. And lastly, I would have a few considerations that I would like to give to startups looking to basically enter AI area or even maybe considering themselves AI startups. So first of all is that these methods and things that can be achieved now with AI are getting stronger and stronger, and of course there's also all this possibility of misuse. So I would really like to advise them to try and use these methods to provide a positive impact, because I feel that maybe not necessarily in a very short term, but over medium or long term, they will always be rewarded if they provide this strong positive impact on a certain use case society and so on. Also, as we saw, the technology is getting always better, is changing very rapidly. So it's maybe difficult if you put only technology kind of in front of yourself as the main goal. So after this gets widespread, after big players develop these algorithms, what remains is strong relationships. So I would advise to put this as kind of very important consideration, and also the user experience. So the tools that companies developed, how easy are they to use for people who maybe are not experts in AI. And also regarding technology, it's really important to be adaptable. So to not get stuck with certain technology, because the pace in which new things are arriving is accelerating. So in order to stay ahead, it's really good to keep your mind open and always be on the lookout on what would be the next thing that would provide you big value. So yeah, with this last thought, I would like to conclude my talk.
We are scared that AI will someday rule the world. How or when do you think we will have to deal with this situation?
Yeah, so this question, I would say, is really related to the whole problem of finding good alignment between us and our goals and the goals that we set for the AI system. And currently, of course, it's not a resolved question, but based on some of the progress that we are making, is definitely a question that we need to work on now and not sometime in the future, to basically embed fail-safes that would increase the chance that this will not turn out badly for us. Thank you. It was a pleasure being here and having this talk. Bye.
Okay, future people, are you ready to actually meet our last but not least keynote speaker? Let's move across the Atlantic Ocean to the Boston area and meet Matthew S. Cressy, founding director of the MIT IDM program. He's an expert in product design and development. As an entrepreneur and founder of DesignTurn, he has designed, invented, engineered, and manufactured products for startups, Fortune 500 companies, and everything in between. So, really warm welcome, Matthew Cressy from MIT.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Cressy. I suppose I was just introduced, so thank you for that. I am a senior lecturer at MIT, and I am the founding director of MIT IDM. And today, I'm going to talk to you about what I see as the innovation paradox. And that is basically this sort of inverse relationship between innovation for startups versus innovation for mature companies that, for the sake of this talk, I'm going to call grown-ups. I, just so you know, am a really big entrepreneur. I've never really done well working for anyone else other than myself. And so I now work at a very large organization at MIT, and I have to deal with grown-ups. It's very difficult. And I'm tasked with innovating all the time. So this is very near and dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about it. I have very unique opinions. So I apologize in advance if this gets you into any kind of trouble in the future. All right, so let's start with the startup. I don't know how many of you have experienced a startup, but I love it. You get an office space, you build it out, you maybe make your own desks and furniture and partitions like you see here, and you start, out with your founding team, right? And that founding team could be an engineer, a designer, a marketing person, maybe an accountant or a finance person, maybe an attorney, or whatever. Or maybe it's just several engineers that have a great idea. But those are your founders, right? And they're in that environment, and they're close-knit, and they're working together every day. And if you look on the right side, you can see there's this pink bar that says innovation. And the amount of innovating they're doing is really high. And the reason for that is that there's nothing preventing them from innovating, right? They're talking with the customers. Maybe all 5 founders are meeting with customers on a regular basis. They're developing these relationships. They're understanding the needs and the emotions of their customers. They go back to their office space and they build solutions and things that they know their customers will love, and they're innovating. It's fantastic, right? Well, sooner or later, they start shipping product. And now you have to worry about maybe perhaps supply chains, or you're writing code or you have to do website maintenance. So you start building out the company. I'm sorry, I skipped a step. So you might need some investors, right? And those investors come on board, and with them comes this money, which is great, but also the fear of disappointing them, right? Because now you've got people who have given you money and they're have expectations for a return on that investment. So you have a little bit of fear entering the picture here. Now I see fear as the kind of wet blanket for innovation. You really want to eliminate fear. Founders had very little fear starting out, right? Because it was just them. What do they have to lose? There's nothing to lose. There's only everything to gain. Now you have investors. You got some money, right? You have some cash. And now, oh my gosh, you could lose that cash if you're not careful, right? So now you start being careful. That starts inhibiting your ability to innovate. Then you start adding the other disciplines, right? Like building out your departments. You have more engineers joining your organization. You have a bigger design team. You have a marketing team. Your investors might grow. Manufacturing is something you have to keep an eye on. All these kind of business operations, they start to really kind of create an element of fear, because there's all these salaries you have to pay. You've got livelihoods that you have to take care of. And so now as a founder, you're not just thinking about satisfying your customers, but you're also thinking about making sure that your organization doesn't screw up, right? Again, more fear. And so your innovation kind of ability decreases a little more. Well, let's fast forward a little bit farther into time. And now, let's say you're a grown-up company. The founders are really just a very small percentage of that company. The vast majority of that company is everyone it takes to kind of maintain operations. Some of those people are tasked to innovate, but those people are working with all these other people that their task is to prevent the company from losing money, prevent the company from dropping its share prices on the market that afternoon. Their jobs are really to prevent failure, right? And so the culture of that company really changes from the culture that the founders had from the first slide to now, the founders had nothing to lose. Now the company has everything to lose. They have all these livelihoods. They have all this investor money. They might be beholden to the, SEC or whatever exchange they're trading on. And so what you end up having is a culture, this pervasive culture of risk avoidance or fear, okay? And that you have a grown-up company. And, this is what it looks like. Is the furniture made by hand anymore? No. But you can't afford to do that. You need to buy your solution for that furniture, right? You need to start hiring out. And in that hiring process, in that kind of acquisition of what's already out there, the culture of your company kind of becomes what's already established. So as founders, one of your missions, in my opinion, is to prevent that culture from becoming what this is right here. You need to maintain that culture of innovation. Some companies have done that really, really well. And I bet you're thinking of them right now, like Apple, right? I mean, Apple was a startup. Apple was in a garage in Palo Alto or wherever in the Bay Area, right? It was just a garage. Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, right? And a couple other people. And they were just had this cavalier, incredible, innovative kind of attitude, entrepreneurial. And now they have a very, very, very large company. And that culture of that company has changed substantially. Yet they're still able to value and maintain an innovation ethos. So that's something very special. And I think that if you look around the world, the most successful companies are the ones that have a wonderful relationship between risk and innovation. And they do things to mitigate risk, but not at the expense of those people doing truly innovative work in the company. So to recap here, you got your startup where the culture is all about creating new value. That's all you're focused on. Value you can monetize and sell and create revenue. Founders are an interdisciplinary integrated team. They work together and they have different disciplines and they work on this process of innovation. Even though the accountant is an accountant, that doesn't mean that the way they see things isn't valuable on an innovation team. So in the work that I do and in the teaching that I do, we really are strong advocates of interdisciplinary integrated teams. And those startups are deeply connected to customers. Okay, so that's something that established companies, as you see right here, culture is about not screwing up, right? It's about maintaining the current value of the company, not getting new value. That's a big mistake. Also, established companies tend to form silos and cliques, right? And you get like little groups. That's bad. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. And then they're superficially connected to the customer. They're not deeply connected to the customer. They're no longer going out for dinner with their customers, right? The founders are too busy managing teams of people that might go do that, but they become disconnected. And as a result, the spirit of the company kind of becomes what their organization is doing, not what the founders are thinking and feeling based on what they're getting from their customers. So these are two big disparities that hopefully I can give you some ideas on how to mitigate this. So, again, the majority of the company is there to reduce risk. And part of the big problem is that performance metrics for employees really are all about risk management. If you were to create performance metrics on new value created and revenue generated by that new value, because that's really innovation, right? You would have a different culture in an established organization. But instead, performance metrics are about not screwing up and innovating as a secondary kind of activity. And the irony of all of this is that stagnation, lack of innovation, is the greatest risk of all. Because while you are mitigating risk as an established company, there's a startup out there that's about to disrupt your industry because they're not scared to take risk. They're not scared to come up with a product that changes the entire business paradigm of your category. So if you're not doing that alongside your core business, you are at extreme risk. So that's why innovation should never be left to chance. So here's how we frame innovation as or drivers that we see very important in integration in IDM at MIT. If you want innovation to occur, you have to have a culture that allows it and enables it. You need to have integrated teams, as I mentioned earlier, that collaborate, that bring diverse opinions and viewpoints, and you need a process for those teams to follow to get it done, right? So let's talk about these things. So let's talk about culture first. And as I mentioned, a lot of established companies turn into this, right? They got an engineering team, they're silos. You got an engineering team, you got a design team, you got a business team, and they all have their process where they explore, then they create, then they test, and then they implement. And if it's the engineering team, that might be a technology, right? Or it might be a mechanism, or it might be a thermal analysis, or who knows what it is, right? If it's a design team, it's, all about what the customer wants, how it feels in the hand, or, what's the user experience like? How easy is it to use? How intuitive? How beautiful is it? How exciting is it, right? If it's the business team, it's about viability and will this thing actually generate revenue? And they kind of all go through a similar process. And at some point they start talking to each other and it's mayhem, because the engineering team's already formed opinions, the design team already formed their opinions, and the business team also formed their opinions. And so there's a lot of tension right? And so now you've got this company that even if they do want to innovate, they don't all agree on what direction in which to innovate. So this is a big problem. Another big problem is HR. HR is the biggest kind of risk-adverse organization there is. And they actually will penalize people for doing things that are different than the organization or different than policies that have in the past proved to be defensible in court, right? So if you have someone who is creating, let's say, a new culture that is warm and loving, H&R could come down on that person and say, your culture that you're creating is a potential legal liability, right? And so HR tends to really be short-sighted in the way that they enable or prevent innovation. The other issue with HR is that they don't have very creative metrics in the way that people are hired. For example, do you pick a person based on their future vision for what the company could be, or do you pick them for their ability to create massive spreadsheets, right? If you're hiring someone in, let's say, an accounting position, do you pick someone based on their character, based on integrity, based on their willingness to do good things for the world, their predisposition to protect the earth, right? To build social solutions, to build a beautiful culture? Or do you go back to those metrics that are very easy to quantify? Okay, they know Excel, they know how to use Google Docs, they understand how to do a sensitivity analysis and a tornado chart, blah, blah, blah. Those are skills, right? Skills, as far as I'm concerned, are a commodity, dime a dozen. You want somebody with skills, but also has vision and character and integrity, right? And who's insatiably thirsty for excellence to change the world. Those are the people you want. HR, not interested. So you got to be careful about who is running HR. I think that's one of the most, if you're a founder and you hire someone to run HR, that's one of the most important hires you will make, because it might be your last hire, because HR is going to be doing your hiring from that point on. You better be sure that HR curates your culture, designs your culture in a way that doesn't destroy innovation and destroy that thirst for excellence. And how many times have we heard this, right? These are quotes, that we hear from companies, like our biggest client just left us for a startup. Why is that? The startup is innovating. Innovation is not a luxury. It's a necessity, right? Oops, it jumped ahead here. We've launched great products, but politics kills them, or the best innovators won't work here. That one kills me. The best innovators don't work here. That, when you've created a business where people who are really free thinkers and innovative and fun and exciting to be with, and they get into your culture and they're like, I'm not being any part of this. This is just horrendous. And they leave, right? Wow. That to me is just a really miserable place to be. So you got to change that. Corporate culture really can kill innovation. And it's up to us as business leaders, as entrepreneurs, or CEOs in the C-suite to change that culture. You can do it. Be great if my slides advance when I click. So bring that startup to the grown-up, right? And so one way that I like to mentally model that is, and this is my role at MIT, is I see myself as an intrapreneur. So I was an entrepreneur when I had no governing organization, but when I work for a big company and I'm trying to bring innovation to that company and they resist it, I see myself as an intrapreneur, where I am slightly disruptive, not tremendously disruptive. That'll get me fired, okay? God knows I'm dancing on the edge of that every day. So I try to dial it back 10% from that sort of edge. And there I can kind of experiment, and innovate. And everyone around me does that sort of under my umbrella. And we do great things. We try amazing things. And I'm very proud of the work we do. Could we do more? Absolutely. But it can be very challenging. Hey, we just got a question here. If you don't have an HR team, who has to deal with staff? Outsourced to HR or CEO? That's a great question. And I think it depends on the size of the company and how many people are in it. If you have a lot of people, then I would definitely develop an HR staff to manage those people. If I can do it myself, I usually do. However, sometimes you need a little autonomy from the larger organization as a leader in order to give yourself a little leeway, right? A little bit so they can forgive you sometimes. I don't know if that, so we could talk, that's a whole nother talk. But I would, if possible, I would keep that in-house. Okay. I wouldn't outsource it. I would keep it in-house. I'd either do it myself or I'd hire a number two. And part of that number two's responsibilities would be to manage the organization HR activities. All right. So another innovation driver is integration. Thank you for the question, by the way. So integration, what does this mean? Well, in IDM, we see these three disciplines as being super important to business success. And that is that you have people with design backgrounds, people with business backgrounds, and people with engineering backgrounds working together for a common cause. Okay, that is the business. And all too many times, companies forget design. But it's design that makes a product desirable, right? You want a Porsche? Well, you wouldn't want a Porsche if it didn't look great. You wouldn't want a Porsche if the materials weren't absolutely beautiful or the ergonomics and the driving position wasn't just right. You wouldn't want it if it didn't look so amazing from the outside, if it didn't sound so great, right? That is all in the wheelhouse of the design team. And the design team works with the engineering team to make it a reality. But the design team is usually left out of most organizations. So we have to be very careful about all of this, right? About, again, curating an organization means balancing the disciplines in a way that allows you to create value for your customers that is truly unique and pleasurable. All right, so that's design. So design makes things desirable, engineering makes things feasible, business makes things viable. So here's an example of a product that resulted from that type of integrated team. And I show you the very first iPhone because everything since this product right here in 2006 is a derivative. The iPhone that I'm looking at right now is pretty much the same thing, right? This was the paradigm change. This was the game changer. This was the disruptor. And so what was involved? Well, they had to create this incredible user experience, a beautiful form. It had to be simple to use and intuitive, right? Yet it had incredible system complexity. Think about the engineering that went into this, the electrical engineering. Just Gorilla Glass alone was a major kind of effort and triumph, right? To get that Gorilla Glass to work, not break, yet feel good and work well with the touch capacitance and all that. And then you had to create things like iTunes and apps, right? And a relationship with AT&T to roll out this thing. This is an incredible achievement, especially because they shipped 14 million units the first year. Remarkable. It was $600, and the nearest competitor was probably around $99, the Motorola Razr. What an amazing. This resulted from that integrated team. That team of designers, business people, and engineering. They worked really hard and in concert together. That's how great things occur. So going back to our silos, what we recommend is creating these sort of integrated micro teams where if you have a company that's siloed, okay, grab a couple of people from the engineering team, grab a couple of people from the design team, grab a couple of people from the business team, put them together to create this micro integrated team, and have them do their exploration phase, then go through a creation phase, a brainstorming concept generation phase, then have them test the product with your customers to see how they like it. Have all of these people from these various backgrounds witness this. That way they can go back to their silos and report out in the language of their silos, and they have credibility and they can get things done. So what process? We got into process a little bit there. So in IDM, we teach about human-centered design. And we do that because really connecting with people and finding out what's wanted is the most important element. If you can't do that, you're going to always have products that slightly miss the mark, right? And that's an opportunity for your competitors to grab market share. So this is the process. Go out and explore, find out what's wanted, create, make concepts, then go back and test that with your market. And you'll repeat those first two steps a few times. And eventually you'll have a concept that you want to move forward with, and then you'll implement it. Implementation is where the money is. That's where you're going into CAD modeling, creating, high, CNC prototypes, and you're going to make tooling and manufacture and go from there. Okay. So what we teach in IDM is actually a variation of this, where you start with that purple exploration box, find out what's wanted, but then you communicate that to the rest of the organization. That sets the culture. That tells the whole organization, we've talked to our customer, this is what they want. And it's up to us, all of us, everyone, to make sure we deliver on that. And that helps dispel this anti-innovation paradox I'm talking about in big companies. So communicating what you learned from your customers is vital. A lot of companies don't do this expression part. Then you create concepts, then you test, and then you go back to your customers and explore some more. And eventually, after you go around that loop a few times, then you implement. So that's our variation on sort of the human-centered design, also known as design thinking. We don't call it design thinking because this is an action sport. This is contact sport action right here. This is not sitting at your desk and putting Post-it notes up on the wall. That's a bunch of crap. Go out there, meet people, have coffee with them, have a beer with them, get to know them. That's how you find out what's in their hearts and minds, and that's how you create inspired product. All right, so stay connected to the customer. Let their needs be your North Star and their wants. As your company grows, design your culture so that everyone understands this. Okay, that's your job. You're designing your company as well as making sure your products are inspired. And make it known to all your employees that the biggest risk of all is to not be competitive with those companies that are not afraid to innovate. If you're not innovating, someone else is going to eat your lunch. So get out there and do it. All right. I think we are out of time. So I'm going to leave it at this. But I will thank you very much for having me here today. I hope and wish all of you the best of luck. These two guys are my heroes. They brought me to tears. I could cry right now with what happened in Tour de France this year. Amazing. I told you. So I'm so proud of these two people, not only for their performance, but for the character of their sportsmanship and the love that they expressed. What an amazing thing. And I think that is really indicative of great entrepreneurship right there. So anyway, I wish you all the best of luck, and you can do amazing things. Just choose to do amazing things. Don't just try not to do what everyone else does. All right. And then in 5 minutes, I will meet you all, and you're invited to meet with me and chit chat in the innovation room. All right. Thank you all.
Big thanks to all the keynotes and other participants of this year's Future 4.0 conference. Now we're moving to the final part of the conference. We need to announce who is the Future 4.0 Startup of the Year. The decision was made by corporations that participated last year. Now let's meet who the 5 finalists are. VR, innovative startup that excels at providing easy-to-use authoring and distribution tools for virtual and augmented reality. Ectimo, the data scientists who solve business problems with machine learning and AI development. 360 Pro Video, digital agency that provides cutting-edge technologies for companies with aim to deliver immersive projects which feature high level of end-user interaction. Assembly, experts for providing customers with rapid prototyping solutions of custom electronics and IoT integration. And finally, Autotech, experts for automation, robotization, and digitalization of production processes. Now let's invite to our virtual stage Director of Sasha Incubator, Ms. Carla Sitar, to announce the winner who will receive this trophy.
It is my pleasure to announce the winner of the competition for the Future Startup of the Year 2020. And the award goes to Startup Ectimo.
Hi future people, I'm very happy that we get the award of the Future Startup of 2020. The award is a nice recognition for our work. It looks like that we are doing something right, that we are using our knowledge to help the corporations solve the real problems. And yeah, I'm very happy. So thanks for the award, and I hope to see you live next year. Go Future 4.0.
Tomorrow is a big day for 111 startups who joined the Future 4.0 from Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, Albania, Macedonia, Israel, Bulgaria, Greece and Turkey, and 6 corporations which will try to close some deals. But that doesn't mean that we don't have time for some party. We prepared for you a networking party with our keynotes in 3 floors: AI floor, innovation floor and design floor. Because this party is only for you, invited guests, check your email and you will find the link to join us. Thank you everybody for being with us today. We enjoyed your company. Meet us in the future next year.